in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. I took my elder sister's place to marry Prince Xiang, while my elder sister took my place to marry the crown prince. Hearing this, who wouldn't praise such fairness? However, my husband, Prince Xiang Li, from the moment of our wedding when he lifted my veil, nearly let out a piercing scream. Clearly, he wasn't pleased at all. I could only look at him awkwardly, my heart filled with indignation. After all, I had dreamed of marrying a handsome and talented crown prince, one who held great power and would one day ascend to the throne as emperor. I would become empress. But now I've married Prince Xiang instead. Though his appearance isn't bad, he's known to be frivolous and lazy, lacking any real ability, uneducated, with nothing special about him. When Li heard these words, he bristled like an angry cat and immediately reacted. He forgot that I wasn't supposed to be his bride at all, and threw all his energy into arguing with me. This was our very first quarrel, he said. Melody Chu, don't mock others when you're no better yourself, just as bad, the pot calling the kettle black. I couldn't help but laugh at that, though my heart still burned with resentment. Don't think just because you can quote a few idioms and proverbs that you're more educated than me, who hasn't attended private school. I rolled up my sleeves, the elaborate and heavy wedding garments gradually becoming a burden. But I didn't care, determined to make him understand the difference between the eldest and the second daughter. Outside the door, noise began to rise. The palace maids and young eunuchs hearing the commotion came rushing over. Well then, this argument can't continue anymore. I had no choice but to enter the palace, my heart both anxious and somewhat expectant. This expectation was tinged with a bit of secret satisfaction, though that satisfaction was also mixed with unease. The stars in the night sky were dim, as if covered by a layer of mist. I didn't know what was in my elder sister's heart at this moment. Whether this matter would succeed or not largely depended on how many novels I had read. My elder sister Serena Chu and I didn't share the same mother. She was father's first wife, a young lady of renowned family from Suzhou. The two were childhood sweethearts. After father went to the capital to take up his post, perhaps unaccustomed to the climate, she fell seriously ill and lay bedridden for many years, eventually passing away. After that, father married my mother, a young lady from Yingxiao Mountain Manor. But when mother gave birth to me, she had a difficult labor and also departed. From then on, father never remarried. The three of us, father and daughters, depended on each other. That's what everyone always said. But in truth, though father wasn't a grand secretary, he wasn't a minor official either. Our household was always bustling with guests coming and going, the threshold constantly being worn down and repaired and worn down again. The childhood of my elder sister and me truly wasn't too tragic. It's just that sometimes we would hide under the blankets, quietly missing our respective mothers. No matter how high father's official rank, it couldn't compare to the Imperial family. During the Lantern Festival last year, father brought my elder sister and me into the palace. He earnestly instructed us to simply behave naturally and not be too impolite. Perhaps our personalities were influenced by our respective mothers. My elder sister had a calm and gentle temperament like water, every gesture the epitome of a proper young lady. Father was very proud of her. As for me, father often said I was like a crab, stubborn and always walking sideways with claws raised. I didn't understand why father was so meticulous in his instructions, but to me, father's words were like heavenly music. I pulled my elder sister along and we happily began our tour of the Imperial Palace. However, throughout the journey, I constantly felt something was watching us. That evening at dinner we sat behind father. I felt such pity for him. Other girls usually sat beside their mothers, exchanging gentle words, the whole family harmonious and warm. But father had to be both father and mother. I won't say more, or I'll start crying again. I knew better, so I behaved more obediently. Since ancient times, every banquet must have performances, and there's always a talented young lady taking the lead, captivating the young masters. This was originally a matter of whoever was skilled would perform, but the Empress had her own intentions. She personally pointed at me. I only knew a little superficially about music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. I feared that in this situation I would be laughed at and bring shame to the Chu family. I shrank back, ducking behind my elder sister Serena. Elder sister, you go. That's wonderful. I encouraged her. She was good at everything, especially music, but this time, she chose to paint instead. She held the brush, moved it freely and naturally, and in just moments completed the painting, depicting the palace court on Lantern Festival night. though I wasn't proficient. I understood clearly that my elder sister deliberately concealed her talent. This painting compared to what she usually created was only 1/10 as good, but it was already a superior work. After Serena finished, it was Melody's turn. I knew I couldn't escape anymore. Truly, I had no remarkable talent. After thinking for a long time, I decided to do something people probably weren't familiar with, and might not particularly enjoy. I stepped forward to perform a martial arts routine. Initially, I thought of using a plum blossom branch as a sword, dancing sword movements as graceful as a dragon flying and phoenix dancing, releasing a cold fragrance, very fitting for the season. But thinking again, if I did that and captivated people's hearts, then everyone would come to my manor to learn. Wouldn't that work me to death? Forget it, I'll just do health cultivation boxing instead. Unexpectedly, this boxing routine received praise from the Empress. Or rather, thunderous applause echoed throughout the hall, full of vitality. I told myself that this deadly boxing routine truly needed such a boisterous welcome to be fitting. If there were gongs and drums, it would be even better. Even so, I understood myself clearly. When things are abnormal, there must be something strange. The Empress then said, "I see you are a healthy child with good fortune. I like you very much." After that, the Empress requested an imperial edict to arrange my marriage to the crown prince. No way, I'm someone who wants to travel the world with a sword, wandering freely. I could only smile awkwardly, blaming myself for reading too few books, not even knowing how to refuse politely without losing propriety. Fortunately, father was quicker than me. He said she has lacked proper education since childhood, wild and untamable, famous everywhere as a stubborn child, certainly unable to become crown princess. I frantically nodded in agreement. But the Empress only needed to close her eyes and father immediately shrank back, standing still like a quail, not daring to move. Just when I thought the matter was settled, the noble consort suddenly interrupted. The eldest young lady of the Chu family is gentle, virtuous, both talented and beautiful. I'm very fond of her. I request His Majesty arrange her marriage to Prince Xiang. I burst into tears. This was the proper way to praise a daughter-in-law. I turned to look at my elder sister's expression, but saw no sign of happiness. Of course not, because Prince Xiang had a bad reputation far and wide, not a good match at all. Father still didn't give up, once again earnestly refusing. He said that Serena had been weak since childhood. He wanted to keep her by his side for a few more years. Hearing this, the noble consort shed tears and said, "Lord Chu is not wrong. The crown prince is accomplished in both civil and martial arts, his appearance like a celestial being. Unlike my son, who can't catch anyone's eye, it's precisely because he's useless without fortune." Father immediately knelt down, kowtowing without saying a word. The three of us, father and daughters, silently left the imperial palace and returned to the manor. As soon as we arrived, father sighed once, then turned and walked straight into the ancestral hall. My elder sister and I, hand in hand, walked into the courtyard. My heart was filled with discontent. I originally had no one in my heart, but speaking frankly without fear of embarrassment, in my maiden heart, the future should be marrying a peerless hero, traveling the Jianghu with that person, carefree in the bustling world. Father often said I was like a powder keg. This saying was truly accurate. My emotions of joy, sorrow, and anger all showed clearly on my face. My elder sister was completely different. Her temperament was calm and reserved. Very rarely could anything make her frown. But I knew that regarding this arranged marriage, she wasn't happy either. I felt she wasn't just sad. That night, for some reason, she kept staring at me, her eyes red. I asked if something was wrong. She just shook her head, then picked up a piece of braised pork, my favorite, and told me to eat more. I couldn't understand what was happening, but given my simple nature, when others didn't want to talk, even if I asked, nothing would come of it. 2 days later, while I was strolling the streets, I suddenly saw my elder sister's maid Leichu entering a tea house. My vigilant nature and love of meddling combined with the boredom of an idle wandering heroine made me follow her inside without hesitation. Good heavens! Unexpectedly, in that small room, a man and woman were embracing each other tightly, and they were people I knew well. One was my elder sister, who was by my side every day, and one was my future betrothed, the crown prince himself. My elder sister said, "Fate is not in our favor, we have no destiny together. From now on, we need not meet again." The crown prince fell silent, his eyes brimming with tears, not saying a word. Truly they were a star-crossed couple, and I was precisely the one who came between them. This realization made me sad for a long time. After that, I returned to the manor with a heavy heart. sitting on the swing that my elder sister had made with her own hands. I began, rarely for me, to contemplate my life. Did I want to marry the crown prince? The image of a stern face that never smiled gradually appeared in my mind, making me involuntarily think that face like the king of hell deserved the most expensive ruler for punishment in the world. I feared him no differently than fearing a difficult old teacher. Did I want to live in the Eastern Palace? Certainly not. Therefore, I did something bold. I decided to lose weight. The Empress said I was healthy and blessed, which wasn't wrong. But I couldn't deny that my body had a bit of extra flesh. My elder sister and I were about the same height, but our figures were vastly different. It wasn't my fault, just that she was too thin. That phrase about a waist so slender it couldn't fill one's grasp was definitely talking about her. Losing weight was extremely difficult for me, but one couldn't very well force a girl to gain weight. Spring passed, autumn came, and finally I succeeded. The world gained another slender and beautiful girl. I was somewhat pleased, spending half a watch each day standing before the mirror admiring myself. However, after marrying Ethan, every time we argued, I would briefly regret it, because now I no longer had the strength to pin him to the ground and beat him. That's a story for later. At this moment, I decided to be honest. I told my elder sister that I had discovered her secret. She looked frightened. I said I was willing to help her and the crown prince be together, had even thought of a way. Even if there was a price to pay, my elder sister hesitated, because that price was the crime of deceiving the sovereign. I said, just pretend you know nothing. On the day of the wedding procession, our sisterly affection was deep. We dismissed all the palace maids and personally helped each other change clothes and arrange hair, then covered ourselves with red wedding veils. When I sat in the bridal sedan, my heart stirred with so many emotions. On the road to the Imperial Palace, it was a day of celebration throughout the realm. The entire palace was flooded with red, everyone wearing smiles. But in truth, it wasn't like that at all. His Majesty had perhaps drunk too much and didn't appear. The Empress sat on high, her face ice cold, saying nothing. The noble consort sat beside her, sobbing quietly. Whether from fear or from regret at losing such a good daughter-in-law as my elder sister, beneath them 4 people were kneeling in 2 rows. Everything was neat and orderly. Initially, I planned to kneel in 1 row to look more imposing. But Ethan knelt behind the crown prince, so I had no choice but to move back. In the Great Hall, a heated discussion then took place. In summary, the crown prince said that the 2 had already bowed to heaven and earth and had been to the ancestral hall. Serena was already his wife and couldn't be changed. Outsiders only knew the crown princess was a woman of the Chu family. Whether it was the eldest or second daughter didn't matter much. On my elder sister's face, tears flowed. She looked truly pitiful. She said softly, everything, please let the Empress decide. Ethan's throat constricted, clearly showing his displeasure. Serena was my original betrothed. This cannot be changed because of a misunderstanding. I immediately pulled his hand, interrupting him. Though disgusted inside, I still tried to keep my voice calm. We have already bowed to heaven and earth. In this life, you can only be mine. There's no escape. Remember, you're my man and belong only to me. Ethan looked at me in terror, backing away several steps on his knees. The Empress frowned, annoyed, and ordered us to get out. Though she didn't specify where to go, I made the decision myself to return to Prince Qingxian's manor. But Ethan, that clever scoundrel, wouldn't let me board the carriage, saying I wasn't a member of Prince Qingxian's manor. If I wanted to go somewhere, I could go, but we weren't going the same way. At that moment, my elder sister had already left affectionately with the crown prince, leaving me standing alone in the dark night. A cold wind blew through, making my nose run. My maid Sinew hurriedly draped a cloak over me, but I stubbornly pushed her away, saying I wasn't cold. In truth, the flame of anger in my heart was burning fiercely. I ordered someone to bring a horse. The deserted street was the perfect time to gallop through the night. Before long, I had caught up with Ethan's luxurious but slow, moving carriage. As I passed, I laughed mockingly and shouted, "Ethan, are you a turtle?" His face turned pale immediately, his mouth mumbling something, but I was riding too fast to hear anything. I had to quickly return to the manor to lock the gate and see who couldn't enter the manor tonight. Sure enough, Ethan was locked outside by me. When he climbed over the wall, I had already occupied the main chamber. He couldn't find a reason to pick a fight and had to consciously go sleep in the study. After a long, exhausting day, I was truly spent. According to the rules for Imperial family brides the next day, one must enter the palace to receive instructions. But in the current situation, I was worried about the health of the empress and noble consort. Truth be told, I was someone who knew how to think, because like becoming the noble consort's daughter-in-law, obviously she was someone I had to respect and please. So I went to knock on Ethan's door, wanting to ask him what I should do now, because I urgently needed an answer. Ethan answered decisively, "Get lost." Though angry, I endured. The thoughtful steward had already prepared breakfast and invited me to the front hall. When Ethan arrived, I had already finished a bowl of vegetable congee and a large meat bun. He didn't say a word, just sat at the other end of the table staring at me. With the steamed bun in my mouth, unwilling to back down, I stared back at him. Last night it was dark. I hadn't had a chance to see him clearly. I'd only met him a few times before, but this was the first time I paid close attention. Sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, I was quite satisfied. A high, straight nose, red lips and white teeth. Not bad at all. I forgot that holding a steamed bun for too long would cause drooling. Ethan's expression finally changed. He smirked. "Melody, have you been watching me for a long time, craving my appearance, so you deliberately wore your elder sister's clothing on the wedding day to marry into Prince Qingxian's manor?" I calmly wiped my mouth, pointed to my intelligent but not overly brilliant head and asked, "Do you think I look like a villain?" Ethan answered, "Yes." I laughed foolishly. He became serious again and said, "If you don't like it, then let's divorce." I answered, "Are you dreaming? I don't need face, but isn't the Imperial family more important? Don't they need to maintain face?" Ethan probably understood what I meant and didn't argue further. Just tilted his head slightly to look at the sky, his expression somewhat dazed. But when he turned his head, he accidentally looked straight at the sun, making him squint. At that moment, my heart softened. I suddenly wanted to talk about life. I asked, "Do you like my elder sister? After all, she doesn't like you." Being rejected so directly, surely he felt uncomfortable inside. But perhaps having grown accustomed to rejection since childhood, he said nothing. I began to feel that perhaps I had made a mistake in this matter. My elder sister and the crown prince achieved their happiness, but Ethan had the marriage he hoped for shattered, gaining nothing at all. I said, "Wait a few years. When people gradually forget about our situation, you can find someone you like." After thinking a bit, I added, "But don't fantasize about my elder sister anymore. She's someone you can never have in this lifetime." Ethan glared at me once, then mocked, "Are you using retreat as advance, using defense as offense, pretending not to care but actually wanting to possess me?" His words made me burst out laughing. "This Ethan, you truly know how to provoke people." The day we returned home was a good day. I woke early, suddenly craving wontons from home. While father hadn't yet gone to court, I quickly asked the steward to save me a bowl to satisfy my craving. After eating my fill, I leisurely walked into the ancestral hall and knelt down to calculate. Indeed, in just the time it took a cup of tea, father had arrived. Hearing his footsteps, I knew father had appeared. Behind him, he gave a cold snort. "You know yourself well, don't you?" I humbly replied, "Just average. Everything is thanks to practice." Accepting punishment was a process I had become very familiar with. Though father was busy, he didn't forget to come see the daughter he had always doted on. He hadn't even changed out of his court attire. I advised him to change into more comfortable clothing, because this time might not be brief. Father stood before the ancestral tablets, pondering for a moment, then felt I was right. He nodded, withdrew his sleeves, turned and left. But before he could exit the gate, old Lu arrived. As soon as old Lu came, he reported, "The eldest young lady has returned home." I sat up straight and asked firmly if I needed to continue kneeling. Things were different from before, now even more so. My elder sister was now the crown princess. First she was father's daughter, then my elder sister. In front of the manor gate, it was extremely lively. My elder sister held father's hand. Father was both laughing and crying. The crown prince stood beside them, gently comforting. I watched the scene and felt happy for my elder sister, to have someone who sincerely loved her, never leaving her side for life. This was truly the dream of every girl in this world. The crown princess had no precedent for returning home to visit parents, yet the crown prince personally escorted her back, proving that in his heart, my elder sister was everything. Father was also moved as read, continuously saying good, good, then led everyone inside. When my elder sister saw me, she was also very happy, but her gaze swept past my back and her expression changed slightly. Even so, she said nothing, just gently patted my hand. I told myself not to care. My elder sister led the crown prince into the ancestral hall, while I sat waiting outside in the corridor. Properly speaking, I should also lead my husband in so that our mother who never met us could see that her daughter had grown up and married. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring him along. After all, I had already explained to mother for quite a while. Surely she wouldn't blame me. The warm sunlight was shining down. Old Lu came again, out of breath, reporting, "The second young lady has arrived. Our house only had my elder sister and me. Where did a second young lady come from?" When old Lu calmed down, I finally heard clearly. The second son-in-law had arrived. But where did we have a second son-in-law? There was. My second son-in-law was none other than Ethan. I rushed to the gate, staring at the person who had just arrived. "Why did you come here?" Ethan glared at me once, then turned to father, bowing respectfully. "Father-in-law, please forgive me. I had important matters to handle, so I arrived late. I hope father-in-law will be understanding." I felt annoyed, thinking to myself, what a terrible excuse. You're Prince Xiang, the most famous in the capital. What important matter could there be? I blurted out. Father then chimed in jokingly, saying the prince is busy with 100 tasks and 1,000 duties. Delays are unavoidable. That dog. Ethan looked at father with an expression as if to say, "Father-in-law truly understands me," then smiled and walked into the manor. Father said, "Since you're already here, let's go to the ancestral hall together." I hesitated a bit, not knowing whether I should bring him before mother's spirit tablet. When no one was around, Ethan asked me why I didn't wake him this morning, causing him to oversleep. I answered, "I did call you but you didn't get up." He stubbornly insisted I was lying, saying my voice was so loud it could be heard 2 streets away. If I really wanted to wake him, at the 3rd watch, no one could sleep until the 5th watch. The anger in me erupted. I shouted, "Such an important matter and you didn't know yourself. Still waiting for me to call you." He also refused to back down, replying sarcastically, "What are you going crazy about? I didn't marry anyone else. How would I know about returning home after 3 days? You didn't tell me beforehand either." This rule, I was extremely annoyed. Even the crown prince knew to be here early in the morning. He laughed coldly. "So you're regretting it, regretting that you couldn't marry the crown prince, right?" I exploded. I said, "When did I ever regret it? Don't just throw blame around randomly." He continued, "Even a 3-year-old child knows this, yet you say you don't know. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old for you to mock?" he said coldly. "Then go outside and ask a 3-year-old to try. If the child knows, I'll give you this head to use as a ball to kick." After saying that, he turned and walked away without looking back. I admit I was somewhat unreasonable. Truly, I never thought Ethan would follow me home. After all, the day before, he had discussed divorce with me. So I had already returned to the manor early without expecting anything. I thought if I didn't ask, I wouldn't have to face rejection. But now he appeared beyond my expectations, making me feel I had been too petty. I cried. I had changed. I was no longer that beautiful and gentle little fairy. Thinking this, I felt I needed to find an opportunity to apologize and thank him. I quickened my pace, trying to catch up with him. Suddenly he stopped, then stepped back until we were walking side by side. I immediately prepared a defensive stance, because at this distance he could easily knock me down with force. But no, he grinned, revealing his bright white teeth. "You're angry because I didn't take seriously the matter of returning home to visit parents, right? You wanted me to come along. Why didn't you say it directly?" His tone was even somewhat teasing, making me want to burst out laughing. After entering the palace to meet the noble consort, though I didn't like her, she still smiled and accepted me. People being together is due to fate. That's why there's the saying, white-haired but hearts as one, feelings as deep as breath. Initially, I thought I had done my best, thought I had yielded before fate. But much later, the noble consort told me that she chose a daughter from the Chu family as her daughter-in-law because of her character and appearance, thinking it could help Prince Xiang reform. As for accepting me later, it was because she saw my capabilities. What other abilities did I have? The old woman who attended Ethan once told that one time he intended to go to the pleasure house. Without saying 2 words, I beat him up. When the noble consort heard this story, she exclaimed, "Truly a good daughter-in-law. You've done what I've wanted to do for so long but couldn't bear to." When she said this, her eyes sparkled. I thought to myself, actually I had been there before too. From then on, I played the strict role while he played the gentle role. We divided reasonably. The Li family lived peacefully forever. This mother-in-law's thinking, I truly couldn't understand, but Ethan was indeed idle. After getting married, he received a small position in the Ministry of Personnel. Each day he just showed up for roll call, then returned to the manor like a young master. No one dared say anything. I also found it inconvenient to speak because I was just as idle as him. All day with nothing to do. One day before the mid-autumn festival, I dressed in men's clothing, planning to secretly go to Xiang's house. When preparing to leave, he and I unexpectedly ran into each other. He asked where was I going. I answered, you don't need to worry. Both of us walked our separate ways. I already knew beforehand, if I told him, perhaps this wouldn't have happened. A married couple going together to a pleasure house like this. We stood before Xiang's house, glaring at each other. He shouted, you're a woman, what are you doing here? Go home quickly. Before he finished speaking, I had already struck first, kicking hard at his thigh. You don't know what I'm doing here, but I know clearly what you intend to do. He cried out in pain, about to say something, but I didn't want to listen. Immediately turning and walking into the back courtyard, going straight to the private room. From the corner of my eye, I saw him also limping after me. I came here because of my good friend Vivian Lin. But 5 years ago, she had changed her name to Yonggu. A literary inquisition case had caused the Lin family to collapse. Miss Lin became a person of the red light district. The only daughter of a prestigious renowned family, outstanding in talent from childhood. If not for the disaster, she surely would have become famous throughout the realm. I had tried every way to redeem her. But father said unless the emperor pardoned her crime, otherwise no one could save her. I had spent quite a lot of money, even used my own status, finally managed to preserve her purity. But there were some matters, some people, she still had to face herself. Though father had high position, there was no shortage of powerful people in the capital. Unexpected things would eventually come, and this time, Ethan was the person she had to deal with. Vivian was always clever. Those she wanted to drive away, no one could stay. But this time it seemed too long. Don't know who had caused this to drag on. I worried Vivian would encounter trouble, so I asked a young maid in the house to lead the way. The little girl was so scared her hands and feet trembled, continuously waving her hands, perhaps worried I would cause big trouble. I could only smile apologetically, promising I only came to look, absolutely wouldn't cause trouble. The little girl trembled as she walked ahead leading the way. I bowed my head, not daring to look around carelessly. Occasionally some ambiguous words rang out by my ears, making me even less daring to raise my head. When I heard those ambiguous words, both my cheeks burned with embarrassment. Truly my naivety was deserving of blame. Yongyu truly was an interesting person. Coming here today wasn't wasted either. I smiled coldly and asked, Prince, don't you think so too? The young maid stopped before the tea room. Inside came the sound of laughter and cheerful conversation. Hearing that sound, I suddenly felt suffocated, not daring to let this continue. If inside truly feelings developed, how could we face each other later? I turned back to apologize to the young maid, then felt my feet itching, needing to kick open the door. The scene inside was truly lively. I smiled faintly, half smiling, half not. The tea room was divided into two sides. Behind the beaded curtain was Vivian, dressed in white, leisurely drinking tea. The 4 people outside, I recognized them all famous playboys. They might not know who I was, because I was different from before now. Ethan had just been laughing and talking cheerfully. Seeing me, his expression immediately changed. He stood up, pulling me to go outside. I forcefully pulled away, pointing at Vivian and saying, this is my person. You're not allowed to touch her. He didn't answer, just said softly, she shouldn't come here, go back quickly. The 3 remaining indeed didn't recognize me. I just heard one laugh coldly. Looking at such a refined young gentleman, what a pity to have no eyes. This is Prince Xiang right there. And who are you to dare speak like that? I rolled up my sleeves, angrily answering, today I will show you who I am. Vivian stood blocking me, explaining that these young masters only came to drink tea, didn't do anything wrong. I glanced at Ethan. He was also very angry, looking at me with eyes full of resentment. Truly incomprehensible. I gently pushed Ethan aside, pulling Vivian away. Behind us, someone still dared to ask, Your Highness, are you going to let him lead people away like this? Do you need us to take action? Before the words finished, Ethan's shout rang out, majestic and unexpected. Truly he could be this stern. After returning to the room, I awkwardly spoke up. Just now, one of those people was my husband. Vivian smiled slightly. I know, that's why I kept them there so long. How envious of you. I couldn't understand what was enviable about a husband visiting a pleasure house, but I also didn't dare say more, afraid of touching her pain. I just smiled awkwardly, showing agreement. I took out from my person a gold hairpin and gave it to Vivian. Happy birthday in advance, I said more. I already made longevity noodles, unfortunately they got soggy. Vivian's birthday was on the 15th of the 8th month, a day of reunion and fulfillment. But tomorrow I must enter the palace for the banquet. Can't be free like other years to come with her. Vivian smiled, showing gratitude, and urged me to quickly return. Prince Xiang has been waiting for you outside the house for a long time. Ethan stood outside, hands clasped behind his back. The sunlight stretched his shadow, casting a layer of soft light on his refined face. When I opened the door, I paused slightly. Ethan, come with me. I opened my mouth but said all right. Though his heart was burning, he didn't dare call my real name in this place, afraid of damaging the reputation of Princess Xiang. Leaving the building, he didn't say another word, didn't ask why I came there. This made me curious. I teased, so you like gentle beauties like that? Both my elder sister and Miss Vivian are that type of person. He didn't answer, just said, I heard second prince praised Miss Vivian highly, so I came to see. I took a deep breath, seriously answering, second prince is talented and learned. I believe what he praises about Vivian. Unlike you, who would believe you just came to look. He answered, Melody, don't look down on others like that. I challenged him to recite a passage from Yuang Tower to test his level, but he refused, saying that's a different matter. Finally he said, don't come to these places anymore. If there's anything, let me help you. I answered, my affairs don't need your concern. He emphasized, if you come here again, you must definitely call me. I smiled slightly. Are you afraid for a woman like me? My heart moved slightly when he said, you're afraid of being oppressed in such mixed places, so you want me to go with you? Isn't that right? I was somewhat surprised but quickly brushed it off. At Xiang house there's a discount for couples. I was angry enough to kick him off the horse carriage. The mid-autumn banquet was an evening banquet, but the wives and concubines had entered the palace since early morning. I didn't know Ethan's situation. As for me, all day was just listening to teachings or on the way to listen to teachings. The Empress seemed to still remember me, occasionally calling me up to answer questions. Her eyes looked very kind and full of affection. I thought to myself, oh, why bother? I will never be her daughter-in-law anyway, don't hope anymore. My elder sister became increasingly dignified, always by the Empress's side, faintly showing the demeanor of a crown princess. But unfortunately, I had no opportunity to speak privately with her. At the banquet, I sat next to Ethan. Both of us looked rather listless. I didn't find any food appetizing. Prince Xiang's manor had no real power position, so no one came to greet us so quiet we could catch birds without fear of anyone. I said to Ethan, how about we sneak away early? I can still find elder sister to talk. But then I realized he was staring intently toward Prince Ning, Liju. Honestly, I also couldn't see Prince Ning clearly. Around him were crowds of people. Suddenly Ethan sighed. You also think I'm useless? Can't shine like others, right? I thought for a moment then answered, I think you're very capable. He laughed bitterly. No need to lie. You see, you do little but enjoy much. That's talent right there. As for standing out, do you see yourself shining? I see it. Every day I see you shining. If you want, let me think of a way to make you stand out a bit more. He turned his head to look at me and smiled slightly. The candlelight reflected in his eyes like stars falling into the sea, stirring up ripples of light. Perhaps in a good mood, he carefully picked up a piece of meat for me. Eat more. I was so angry I almost laughed. I don't like eating duck meat. Seeing I didn't move my chopsticks, Ethan irritably picked the meat from my bowl. Ethan pushed the tray of Xinjiang flour cakes in front of me, then smiled faintly saying, hard work plowing at noon, Melody like that pig, doesn't eat the prepared meal, only knows how to gnaw bones. I was about to transform him from a night dog into a dead pig head when a bell rang out, signaling everyone to return to their positions. His Majesty was about to arrive. It had been over half a year since I last had an audience with His Majesty. I still felt his body wasn't well. His complexion was pale and weak, as if a gust of wind could blow him over. The princesses and princes came forward one by one to offer birthday wishes. I also followed to present congratulations. Ethan received rewards. 3 daughters-in-law each received different gifts. My elder sister received a jade roi. Princess Ning received a gold hairpin inlaid with gems. I only received a pair of jade mandarin ducks. Only then could I breathe a sigh of relief. Mission accomplished. Sitting below, my heart was bored beyond measure. The Empress, perhaps feeling the same, again began asking the young ladies about things. Besides the usual topics like music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, the most impressive was the performance by Fiona Zhao, daughter of General Zhao. Her zither playing was clear and flowing, the rhythm smooth, seemingly with a gentle fragrance wafting through, intoxicating people's hearts. Her Peace Plum Blossom 3 movements amazed everyone, praise unending. I turned back to whisper to Ethan, her playing is decent, but compared to my elder sister, still far inferior. Ethan just smiled without speaking. The Empress loudly praised. This scene made me feel somewhat familiar. The Empress called Fiona Zhao over, asked a few words, then lavishly praised her skills. As if still not satisfied, she also pulled others to join in the praise. She asked Ethan, "What do you think of Miss Zhao's zither skills?" Ethan smiled with a smirk. "Sounds like at Xiang house. The playing is all good." The entire hall suddenly fell silent. Everyone's expressions changed. Fiona's eyes reddened with tears. I gave a thumbs up toward Ethan, secretly praising, "Regarding misspeaking, you're truly unbeatable." The Empress didn't get angry but also didn't respond, just pretended not to hear, then turned to ask the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince smiled slightly and answered, "The zither sound lingers for 3 days without end." The Empress showed a benevolent smile, adding, "Like a spring from high mountains. Finding a kindred spirit is truly difficult. Such a talented person, why not grant her to you as a secondary consort?" The Crown Prince's expression briefly changed, saying softly, "This son has no such intention." The Empress's expression immediately darkened, saying nothing more. I was debating whether to push the night dog outside to ease the awkward atmosphere, when I saw elder sister stand up, kneel beside the Crown Prince, perform a grand ceremony, then said that the Crown Prince was momentarily delighted and confused. Having Miss Jia Rufang as a companion is truly a blessing for the Eastern Palace. The Empress immediately beamed, praising my elder sister as someone who knows propriety, is magnanimous and dignified. The Crown Prince frowned, while elder sister still maintained a gentle smile, as if having a secondary consort was good news for her. From then on, the Eastern Palace had an additional secondary consort. I told Ethan to leave first. No matter what happened tonight, I was determined to stay by elder sister's side to comfort her. The night dog said he wanted to sleep with elder sister too. "You'll have difficulty with that. Just leave early, I'll wait for you at the West Flower Gate." Indeed, my elder sister was extremely sad, sitting before the vanity table, silently shedding tears. The scene of the one you love marrying someone else, this pain I couldn't comprehend, couldn't even say a word of comfort. I could only step forward to embrace her, gently patting like mother in my dreams. I asked, "Elder sister, do you regret the price paid back then?" Elder sister's eyes brimmed with tears but still smiled, answering that she was the Crown Princess. In the future, she would surely face the 3 palaces and 6 courts. It just came sooner than I expected, that's all. I don't regret it. I didn't know how I felt, only knew I seemed to have breathed a sigh of relief. After that, I finally understood why the night dog said tonight would be difficult to sleep with elder sister, because the Crown Prince had arrived. I thought the Crown Prince came to coax his new secondary consort, but no. As soon as he entered, he scolded elder sister for arbitrarily bringing someone into the Eastern Palace. Honestly, I didn't understand why he was angry, so I asked directly. Loving elder sister gave me more courage. "What are you scolding about? Marrying Fiona was your doing, not elder sister's." Got the benefit and still act upset. Only then did the Crown Prince realize I was also present in the room. Awkward but still maintaining polite appearance, saying nothing more. Elder sister shed tears, choking out, "As long as it's good for you, I'm willing to do anything but don't want you to suffer injustice." I truly couldn't believe these words came from the Crown Prince's mouth, someone who was stern like the King of Hell. I stood silently in the palace chamber, caught in a dilemma, not knowing what to do. Suddenly I remembered the night dog said he would wait for me at the West Flower Gate. I hurriedly rushed there. As predicted, the black carriage from my manor was parked right inside the West Flower Gate. My heart suddenly filled with joy. But when I approached and opened the carriage door, I discovered the carriage was empty. I had been too presumptuous. I knew immediately that the night dog would never be so kind. Rather than having to stand waiting in the cold wind in loneliness, he would never endure such a scene. Displeased, I quietly asked young Xiaosai, who was standing in attendance, "Where is His Highness?" Young Xiaosai bowed respectfully, answering that His Highness instructed this humble one to wait here for the princess. I leaned against the carriage, closing my eyes, trying to rest and think of a way so when we met, I could scold him properly, make him unable to lift his head. The carriage began to roll. The sound of horse hooves rang out steadily, becoming increasingly lively. I was surprised, thinking to myself, why take this route? At this hour it was even more crowded, and it was mid-autumn night, surely it would be extremely packed. Xiao carefully drove the carriage, explaining this was His Highness's idea. The carriage stopped before Lenyu Tower. I was dreamily led up to the second floor into an elegant room. When I pushed the door open, I saw Ethan standing leaning against the window gazing at the moon. Under the moonlight, his bearing was refined and aloof. I quietly approached the round table. In the center was a large fragrant knuckle that made my mouth water. He pushed the plate toward me, saying, "This is for you. Tonight you ate too little, must be hungry by now." I looked at him suspiciously, then reluctantly expressed thanks. After eating a few bites, feeling uncomfortable, I had to ask politely, "May I use my hands?" He answered casually, "As you wish." My heart rejoiced immensely. This location truly was an exquisite choice. Just by raising one's head, one could see the bright moon among the tree branches. He must have spent considerable effort preparing. The feeling of shame that had been suppressed in my heart suddenly surged back. I suddenly remembered the incident at the palace banquet today, felt I should be more magnanimous. In the end, I had no right to reproach him. So I asked, "What do you think about the crown prince taking a secondary consort today?" He answered, "The Zhao family holds 100,000 elite troops in the northern border. The crown prince marrying Miss Zhao was only a matter of time." I understood this reasoning, but that wasn't my point. I asked, "Were you moved?" He seemed not to hear clearly. So I licked my lips and continued, "It's still a long way until the day we divorce. You originally didn't like me. This time has indeed been difficult for you. Today the crown prince took a secondary consort. Take this opportunity, you choose two people you like. I'll make it clear, but I warn you, if there are conflicts later, I won't yield. If you favor them, I'll beat even you too." Ethan set down his chopsticks, furrowed his brow, then asked, "So already have someone in your heart?" His words, unclear if happy or angry. I thought for a while, then shook my head. He smiled. "Then wait until you have someone before speaking." I bit into the pork knuckle while glancing at the night dog, thinking to myself, is he really that foolish? I'm already full, why would I go looking for more trouble? I sighed apologetically. "But perhaps you won't have the opportunity to take additional concubines. Already gave you the chance. Don't blame me later." I raised my head to see him say, "Let's walk for a bit, walk while digesting." I looked around then nodded. "All right, I'll go with you then." Two people walked one after the other, slowly under the moonlight. The scenery made me involuntarily think of that poem, wishing people long life, though thousands of miles apart, still sharing the bright moon. The autumn wind blew whistling, fallen leaves rustled. I suddenly sighed. Of the 4 seasons in a year, I only love autumn. Ethan smiled slightly, draping a coat over me, then without any mercy teased, "I see you only love autumn because it makes you lose weight." I smiled, tossed aside the sunflower seed shells, carefully washed my hands with soap, then carefully embraced the outfit I had just commissioned a few days ago. Then I went into the room to try on the clothes. After putting them on, the narrow sleeves, fitted pants, thick-soled shoes, neat and tidy, I pushed open the door and stepped out with a bright smile. I jumped in front of him and asked, "How do you think I look? Am I beautiful?" At that moment, Ethan was leisurely eating an apple, doing nothing. He looked at me so intently that the last piece of apple fell from his mouth before he could catch it. His reaction made me very satisfied. But unexpectedly, he became sulky, grabbed another apple nearby, bit into it hard and said, "Looking beautiful, what's the use? Some people have bright red outer clothing but dark hearts within." I gently stroked the sleeve of the deep red garment, suddenly thinking I should warm up before entering the autumn hunting gathering. I smiled slightly and answered, "Next time it will definitely be under the vast blue sky and open earth." Among the crowded throng, I wore the new outfit and happily entered the hunting grounds. Ethan had only gone halfway when he was called away to hunt with the Imperial guards. Before leaving, he even glanced at me once. I waved my hand to reassure him, "Just be at ease. This autumn is my moment." After hunting 2 geese and 1 rabbit, I realized a serious problem. I couldn't carry the spoils back. Standing in the middle of the grassland, I looked up and around, hoping someone would help. Suddenly in the distance, I saw someone wearing a pale yellow robe. Wasn't that elder sister? I took a few steps forward, then realized beside her was a woman in red who looked very familiar. Oh, unexpectedly we're wearing matching outfits. I was still secretly wondering who would be more embarrassed when I suddenly heard Fiona challenge elder sister. Elder sister, why don't you dare race horses with me? Could it be you're afraid? My elder sister had always been weak in constitution, rarely exercised, only focused on music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry and prose. Actually, those skills were also what I forced elder sister to learn, but her studies weren't particularly outstanding either. Elder sister just gently answered, I'm not good at riding. Sister, you should find someone else to test your skills. But Fiona still wouldn't let go, adding, in the past I heard the crown prince say elder sister had exceptional talent, surely nothing was impossible. Looks like the rumors aren't trustworthy after all. These words sounded truly offensive. I hurriedly spurred my horse between the two of them. Grievance and anger rose immensely in my heart. Elder sister, why is it like this? Why does elder sister call anyone sister? Open your eyes wide and look. I'm elder sister's real younger sister. I don't allow elder sister to call anyone else younger sister anymore. Elder sister smiled slightly, apologized to me, and promised not to do it again in the future. I nodded satisfactorily. Then I turned to Fiona and said, where did this young lady come from, persistently trying to pull other people's elder sister and call her elder sister? Doesn't your family have sisters? Fiona was so angry she pointed at me but couldn't speak. Elder sister then scolded me, don't be naughty anymore. This is Fiona. I pretended to be surprised and answered, oh I see. Sorry, Rufang, don't blame me. Because the crown prince has never mentioned you in front of me, so not knowing is also normal. I emphasized the words never mentioned, making Fiona's expression become ugly. She only left behind a cold snort, then galloped away on her horse. I then asked elder sister to help me carry the spoils back, but elder sister refused, saying she had to stay and wait for the crown prince to come teach her archery. My eyes lit up, immediately volunteering. Let me teach elder sister, that works too. Elder sister didn't answer, just glanced at me slightly, then said nothing. I immediately understood, nodded and said I don't understand the situation. After that, I rode my horse wandering around the forest, then thought it was time to return to the camp to eat. On the way back, unexpectedly I encountered Fiona again. She was chatting idly with other young ladies, her words full of contempt. Serena only knows how to pretend to be weak, clinging to the crown prince all day without shame. Hearing those words, I couldn't help but frown. How truly disrespectful. She also said, Melody is blind, neither grown nor small, without a bit of cultivation. A girl in green beside her also echoed, exactly right. The Chu family for generations has been scholarly descendants. How could they raise such a person? I gritted my teeth, restraining myself, telling myself not to cause more trouble. Another girl in purple mocked, Serena is truly a perfect match with Prince Xiang. Both are useless wastrels who live idly. At that moment, I could no longer restrain myself. Without hesitation, I swung the large wild goose, still covered in blood, and threw it straight at the three of them, successfully causing an outbreak of screams full of chaos. Fiona turned back, saw me, and angrily scolded, Melody, have you gone mad? I answered back, not mad at all. But I do have some swagger, especially the kind of swagger that makes others hate bitterly. Know that the words just now have fallen into my hands. She was momentarily flustered but quickly regained composure, asking, what do you want? I gently stroked the horse's mane, smiled slightly. Just now, didn't Fiona want to race horses with the crown princess? Now the crown prince is still busy with archery practice, afraid there's no time. So let me take his place. Fiona's face turned ashen, answering tersely, I'm tired, don't want to race anymore. I then pretended to be surprised, saying, oh, I heard Fiona's horsemanship was taught by a master in the military camp, proficient in the art. How can you fear losing? If not, let this young lady in purple substitute. The girl in purple frantically shook her head, shouting in fear. The argument attracted the attention of the guards. Gradually, many people gathered around. I sat on horseback, calmly announcing, if I win, all three of you must kneel before elder sister and Ethan, kowtowing to apologize. Fiona's complexion turned deathly pale, coldly asking, if you lose, then what? I turned back to look at her, smiling contemptuously. That absolutely cannot happen. The two chose a white poplar 3 miles away as the boundary. 1 round trip, whoever returns first wins. The competition was organized transparently and fairly before everyone's witness. Fiona, worthy of being a general's daughter, rode skillfully with imposing momentum, continuously staying close behind me. In my heart I secretly thought, seems I underestimated her a bit. There's some trouble here. Suddenly her speed unexpectedly increased. I was startled. How could she overtake me? Her horse seemed to lose control. Suddenly she fell from the horse. Dangerous. I shouted loudly, urging people to come rescue. At that moment, I quickly spurred my horse, intending to jump down to save her, but a figure in green shot forward faster than me, immediately embracing Fiona. Spinning several circles then landing safely on the ground, I breathed a sigh of relief. But immediately after, the bit of calm I just had vanished when I looked carefully at the person who had just embraced her. It turned out the one who saved her was none other than Ethan himself. Your Highness, though Fiona wasn't injured, she was still frightened, timidly curling up in Ethan's arms, her body trembling continuously. I quickly dismounted, striding forward to stand before the two, casually asking, finished embracing yet? Ethan's worried gaze briefly left Fiona and turned to me. His expression froze for a moment, his face deathly pale, as if he had just seen something. He suddenly pushed Fiona away, causing her to stagger and fall to the ground. Her face briefly showed confusion, then she burst into sobs. The guards and palace maids around immediately rushed over, forming a chaotic crowd. I quietly observed the situation, thinking to myself, this time I'm afraid I can't avoid 3 days and nights in the ancestral hall. From the corner of my eye, I saw Ethan slowly approaching, only 1 step away from me. He said softly, I thought the one who fell was you, that's why I saved her. Believe me, I answered calmly. Oh. He took a few more steps, asking again, are you angry? That question made me not know how to answer. Saving people is a good deed, proving he's brave and kind, exactly the type of hero I've always admired. But seeing him embrace someone else, I couldn't help but feel suffocated inside. I shook my head, brushing away those troublesome thoughts, turning back to lecture him. Your thinking is wrong. Whether the person who fell was me or not, Your Highness should still help rescue. This time you did very well. I patted his shoulder lightly as if to praise him. He just nodded slightly, looking dazed. Right at that moment His Majesty's close eunuch appeared, rescuing me from the awkward situation. He said, His Majesty summons someone to enter and report. I'll come right away. At that moment, I knelt down, kowtowing, my robe touching the ground, my body as if ready to accept punishment regardless of size. I knew as long as I showed sincerity, there would be no mistake. But unfortunately, I knelt too early. When Fiona was still crying in confusion, my legs had already gradually gone numb. Fortunately, she also wasn't foolish enough to reveal everything about the confrontation with me before everyone, only saying the horse race had an accident. His Majesty scolded us for not knowing restraint, then ordered people to investigate thoroughly. Ethan knelt beside me pleading. Even elder sister and the crown prince had to kneel along. I could only bow my head, telling myself, this time it's truly my fault. The Empress ordered me punished to copy the women's precepts 10 times. After leaving the tent, I discussed with Ethan that 10 times was too many. Split it in half, 5 times each. He answered, that's a book for women. I won't copy it. I then reasoned, the content can be changed. Change women to men, it still applies to you. Let's learn together, progress together. Ethan furrowed his brow, smiled faintly. Alright, unless you embroider a sachet for me. I hadn't yet understood the connection between embroidering a sachet and copying punishment when a scream rang out. There are assassins. Ethan and I immediately looked at each other, then quickly ran toward the tent. Chaos everywhere. Masked assassins were swinging swords, fighting with guards. Palace maids and eunuchs scattered everywhere. I dodged and fought until I saw elder sister was safe, then felt relieved. She urged me to go find the crown prince, there was no other way. I had to tell her to find a place to hide, then rushed to the main tent. The battle here was much more fierce. Ethan was also present. I didn't hesitate. A roundhouse kick flew straight at the assassin about to attack Ethan from behind. Ethan turned back, smiling brightly. After defeating the enemy before him, he teased, surely getting kicked by you like that hurts quite a bit. I answered, if there's time, I'll let you taste my ultimate technique. He asked, what is it? A hard slap. The two of us quickly entered the tent to protect before His Majesty. As for me, I mainly shielded the crown prince. Finally, when the assassins were all subdued, everyone could breathe a sigh of relief. Just as I was about to take the opportunity to joke with the crown prince, saying elder sister was very worried about him, suddenly a cold arrow tore through the wind, shooting straight toward His Majesty. The entire court was shocked. His Majesty was already old and weak. How could he dodge in time? Though Ethan was far away and drew his sword to block, he couldn't react in time. In a flash, the crown prince lunged forward, using his own body to shield His Majesty, taking the arrow, then immediately lost consciousness on the spot. The assassination incident at the hunting grounds had passed some time, But the consequences were extremely severe. The crown prince was seriously injured. Though not life-threatening, his meridians had been severely damaged and needed long-term recuperation. His Majesty wasn't injured, but the terror in his heart caused him to also fall ill and unable to rise. Now both His Majesty and the crown prince were bedridden, unable to govern the court. The court couldn't let major matters be delayed. The ministers quickly chose between Prince Ning and Prince Si without hesitation. I heard the Empress once suggested letting Ethan temporarily oversee the state, but before she finished speaking, the entire court opposed fiercely. I sat under the eaves, asking Ethan if he ever regretted not reading more books in his youth. At that moment, Ethan was sitting playing on the swing. Hearing me, he just smiled. "Perhaps I'll ask you about embroidering the sachet," I asked in surprise. "Why do you suddenly want me to embroider a sachet for you?" He smiled and answered, "If you have a conscience, there must be fair exchange. You've been playing on my swing, so a sachet isn't too much." I pondered. Indeed, this time I let him take advantage again. Outside, the realm was in turmoil, but Ethan and I still remained carefree in the manor, cracking sunflower seeds and playing with dogs, listening to music, watching theater, enjoying peaceful days. Only dared to secretly tell myself, now wasn't the time to show ourselves, otherwise, if we bumped into someone, that wouldn't be good at all. Just when I thought Prince Ning would reach the pinnacle of his life, suddenly the crown prince recovered, quickly returned to court to attend the morning assembly. The entire court was astonished. Everyone praised endlessly the good fortune of the imperial family. News of the crown prince's recovery spread quickly, making many who hadn't yet fully rejoiced learn that His Majesty had passed away, leaving behind emotions of mixed with joy at the crown prince's revival. Truly difficult to fully comprehend. Ethan and I entered the palace to keep vigil for several days. Before such great loss, though I felt deeply, I couldn't speak any words to comfort people. I could only wholeheartedly care for him, ensuring he didn't weaken. Father said I had grown up, knew how to care for others. Looking at Ethan lying on the bed with high fever, unconscious, I pondered deeply. Perhaps that night he had caught cold. Not long after, the new emperor ascended. My elder sister was granted the title of Empress, while Fiona became the consort Shu. When I entered the palace to visit elder sister, or when she had a bit of free time and summoned me in, the rear palace had become extremely lively. There were talented ladies, beautiful ladies, secondary consorts, Wanyi, Wanrong. Everyone was beautiful, making my eyes dizzy. Elder sister sat upright like a pine tree, makeup meticulous, majestic and dignified, her smile gentle but full of authority. She increasingly resembled the Empress Dowager of years past. Every time I met Fiona, it was always a fierce argument, formed long ago. I wasn't afraid of fighting or quarreling, but only worried she would cause trouble for elder sister. The matter of concubines joining forces to overthrow the Empress wasn't rare. But elder sister said it was fine. Since returning from the hunting grounds incident, Consort Shu was no longer intimate with His Majesty. I told elder sister that even if Fiona wasn't intimate, the Imperial Palace didn't lack beauties like flowers and jade. I advised her to be more careful. She just smiled and told me she trusted His Majesty. I said nothing more, though in my heart were many stories I wanted to tell elder sister, like the story of Chen Ji and Queen Guo, or stories about love within the Imperial Palace. But before I could speak, senior brother had arrived. Senior brother, though not an official title, we were still accustomed to calling him that. Every few years, disciples from Yungxiao Mountain Manor would come down the mountain, and people called me junior sister, though I had never formally apprenticed to learn martial arts. I couldn't help but sigh that master was truly skilled at choosing disciples. This time the visitor was second senior brother Adrian Pak, the one I loved most. He had a handsome appearance, gentle temperament, and smiling peach blossom eyes. Who knows how many girls had lost their hearts to him, including me when I was young. Growing up, I realized that feeling back then wasn't romantic love, just that I was infatuated with his appearance. But truly, with such handsome looks, each year I could be infatuated with several people like him. Ethan's illness was like fine silk, gradually dissipating. But recently he had lost a lot of weight. On the way back to the manor, I stopped by Lenyu Tower to buy him the pork knuckle I loved most. Though actually Ethan didn't have any particular favorite food. When the crown prince lay ill, elder sister personally went to the kitchen to cook. I wondered, the crown prince was sick to this extent. Why didn't elder sister cook something truly delicious for him, though both sisters knew well what their cooking skills were like? Elder sister held the spoon, seriously saying, Personally, cooking soup is a way to show care, not because of flavor. Hearing that, I also learned a bit. Because thinking Ethan's illness was partly due to my inadequate care, I decided to go to the kitchen to stew a pot of black chicken soup for him. When Ethan leaned against the pillow drinking a sip of soup, he looked at me with a serious expression and asked, "Are you planning to poison me while I'm weak?" The question made me so angry I almost smashed the soup bowl. In the end, under my threats, he also drank the entire pot of soup, but it took 3 days to finish drinking. Truly ungrateful. Buying pork knuckle for him was my final patience. In the manor it was truly quiet. Originally, even without guests visiting, it shouldn't be silent to this extent. I curiously walked toward the front hall. From far away I could already see the night dog and senior brother sitting face to face, not saying a word. This scene made me feel somewhat strange. When I stepped closer, suddenly the two began acting courteous. "Oh, my young master Pack truly is as fair as a young lady." Ethan smiled faintly, answering, "Your Highness speaks correctly. Melody often praises that I have outstanding appearance." Seeing me, Ethan's eyes lit up. "Melody, you're so good to me. You bought the pork knuckle I love most again." I frowned, signaling him to speak properly. Senior brother looked at me, smiling gently like a kind older brother, lightly patting my head. "Little Melody has grown up, now looks like a beautiful young woman." I proudly nodded, thinking to myself that all senior brothers and sisters were handsome and elegant. I definitely couldn't fall behind. Many years without meeting, I had countless stories to tell. But unfortunately, Ethan kept moaning beside me, sometimes choking, sometimes chest tightness, sometimes headache, making me so annoyed I had to pull senior brother back to the manor. My mother was originally the eldest daughter of Xiang Mountain Manor. Since childhood, I had always dreamed of going to where she grew up, but father didn't permit it. He said it was a very distant place, and father was always busy. Truly distant, because the capital was in the north while the manor was in the south. I didn't understand how the two of them had met across such a vast distance. Xiang Mountain Manor was originally just a small sect, little known. Later, an ancestor master was pursued by enemies and fell off a cliff, but fortunately picked up a peerless sword manual. When he successfully mastered it and returned, he stood at the top of the martial world. When I heard this story, I had some doubts about the sword manual and the cliff. Father immediately told me to be quiet, saying each craft has its own secrets. Through many generations, the manor masters were all proficient in swordsmanship, regularly leading disciples to perform righteous deeds, respected by the people. Passers-by, whether merchants or martial artists, all showed respect. From then on, the manor grew increasingly powerful, establishing reputation in the martial world. Over the years, Xiang Mountain Manor gradually became a force protecting the southern border, so much so that the late emperor once said Xiang Mountain Manor could match tens of thousands of troops. Hearing this, my heart couldn't help but admire. Senior brother came to visit mother's spirit tablet at the ancestral hall, then chatted a bit about the manor's situation. Father was also happy to see senior brother. The two sat talking for a long time, especially asking about the manor's situation in recent years. Looking at senior brother's dazed expression, I knew he must be very regretful for having spoken beforehand. In the ancestral hall, senior brother said regretfully that if I hadn't married yet, would I follow him back to visit the manor. Hearing this, my eyes lit up, immediately answering, "Even though I'm married, I can still go." Senior brother shook his head slightly, smiling. "I'm afraid His Highness won't agree." I smiled back, "Then I'll bring him along. Who knows, he might want to go even more than me. After all, each day he has nothing to do." Perhaps hearing me say someone else was idle, senior brother couldn't stand it. He suddenly stood up, saying he wanted to see if my swordsmanship had improved. I was surprised at this sudden inspection, but fearing we might hurt each other, especially worried for myself, senior brother decided to use plum branches as swords. Snow began to fall. Snowflakes drifted down, light as willow catkins in the cold wind. I attacked and defended continuously without falling behind at all. My heart couldn't help but feel proud. Senior brother kept smiling. But right then, he executed a dangerous, unexpected move that made me unable to dodge. Pushed to the limit, I had to use a risky maneuver, spinning to counterattack. Unexpectedly, senior brother reacted quickly and sensitively. In just a flash, I lost balance, cried out, then fell from midair. In that instant, I saw senior brother rushing forward to catch me. My heart briefly felt at ease, thinking I would be caught by him. But instead of senior brother's warm embrace, I fell onto the snowy ground. Fortunately, the snow was thick, so I didn't break any bones. Raising my head, I saw Ethan, who had appeared from who knows when. But that wasn't important. I just stared blankly at senior brother, silently asking, had this junior sister become no longer lovable? Had the affection faded? Senior brother looked at me bewildered, then at Ethan, his hands still in the posture as if just pushed away. He mumbled as if asking himself, why did you bump into me? Ethan smiled awkwardly, stepping forward to help me up, mouth ceaselessly apologizing. I intended to rescue you myself but wasn't fast enough. He asked again, you believe me, right? I scoffed, coldly waving the tree branch in my hand, smiling menacingly. Are you curious about my ultimate technique? Ethan hurriedly shook his head. I smirked. I think it's time. Listen up. Immediately Ethan backed away 2 steps, then turned and ran away. The next few days, I felt very satisfied. Being guided by someone, naturally one must seize the opportunity to learn. Already interested, I kept bothering them incessantly, day after day, night after night. When senior brother was pestered by me without rest, he often joked that if he had known this, even if it killed him, he should have caught Lingyu and brought Lingyu along. According to father, he was precisely the famous troublemaker of Yungxiao Mountain Manor. I pouted. Call him here to do what? Fight. Last time he was beaten by me until he cried. Senior brother just shook his head and smiled, saying now he's become the renowned young hero in white, famous throughout the southern region. Who wins, who loses, who knows? I furrowed my brow and answered, then why doesn't he come here? Senior brother gently said, there are some disturbances in the south. Master is leading him to handle it. I smiled. Tell him to just wait. When I finish arranging everything, I'll find you all at that time. Be careful. I'll beat that young hero in white until he cries like a flower cat. After getting tired, I led senior brother to stroll around the capital, enjoying all kinds of delicious food, finding interesting things. Ethan wasn't absent either, because this was precisely his specialty. Senior brother furrowed his brow and asked, His Highness is busy with state affairs. No need to be so hospitable. Ethan laughed loudly. I'm originally a famous wise person of the capital. Senior brother, don't be so courteous with me. Just like that, senior brother and senior sister came to the capital, stayed days or half a month, then left. I wanted to follow them. Since childhood I had loved reading books and travelogues, always dreaming of the world beyond. I longed for the day I could personally measure every inch of mountains and rivers. Who knows, on the road I might even get to eliminate evil and uphold justice, becoming a female hero for once. I also wanted to paint a portrait of the Xiang so that those who had never stepped beyond 4 walls could also admire the vast world outside. But father reminded me, you are now a princess, your name recorded in the Imperial Jade Register. You cannot act freely. I could only sigh, having to entrust that dream to the night dog. At the city gate, senior brother deliberately avoided Ethan, pulling me aside to speak. I still think you and Lingyu are very well matched. Though you're already married, if it wasn't voluntary, another marriage can also be cultivated. The Xiang originally doesn't concern itself with these matters. But now you're happy beside Prince Qingxian. He also treats you well, so I have to give up. When I return to the manor, I'll tell him not to think about you anymore. After hearing this, you should forget it. It's just to let you clearly understand his sincere feelings, also not betraying the deep friendship between 2 people. I looked at senior brother bewildered, not knowing how to answer. After hearing those words, my mouth opened slightly but I didn't know what to say. Senior brother just smiled gently. After hesitating for a while, he took from inside his robe a small wooden doll that fit in the palm of his hand. Perhaps in this lifetime, won't be able to meet Shen again. Please help me pass on a message. Melody. I suddenly came to my senses, immediately smiled and said, elder sister receiving this gift will certainly be very happy. On the way back to the manor with Ethan, suddenly I felt uncomfortable. Perhaps due to senior brother's words, or for some other reason, I felt strange sitting beside him. Clearly he was saying something, his mouth continuously moving, but I couldn't hear anything at all. Only when he took the wooden doll from my hand did I suddenly wake up, my face flushed red. Immediately snatching it back. You're snatching my doll for what? Ethan slightly smirked. Just looking a bit, is such a violent reaction necessary? Even speaking isn't clear anymore. What's wrong? Senior brother left and you can't bear it. He leaned closer, intending to snatch it again. The distance was so close I could smell the plum blossom fragrance from his person. The heat burning on my cheeks made me flustered. I quickly shouted loudly, stop the carriage, then pushed him away forcefully, quickly jumping off the horse carriage. The cold wind blew through, calming my heartbeat gradually stabilizing. I said, I must enter the palace to see elder sister. You go back first. After speaking, without waiting for his answer, I hurriedly walked toward the palace like fleeing. It seemed I had chosen an inappropriate time. His Majesty was in elder sister's palace. I told myself that in their situation, the most proper thing would be to return another time. A eunuch invited me to wait in the side hall. After who knows how long, finally His Majesty also left. I watched from afar. He still maintained his usual stern expression. Elder sister didn't know I had arrived. When I entered, she was still sitting by the window, her eyes brimming with tears. I couldn't believe it, immediately asking, did His Majesty bully elder sister? Elder sister looked up at me, somewhat embarrassed. She said, making you laugh. We just argued a bit, that's all. She added, don't worry too much. In this world, what married couple doesn't have times of arguing? I asked curiously, then why did you two argue? Elder sister slightly smirked. It's not really any big matter. His Majesty, since blocking that arrow for the late emperor, his meridians were damaged and never fully healed. Occasionally the illness flares up. Listening to others, he started taking elixirs hoping for longevity and immortality. I was surprised. Elixirs, I heard those things are poisonous. Elder sister nodded. In the past, I also advised him. He also promised not to use them anymore. But today I discovered he was secretly drinking them, so we had a few words back and forth. Don't worry about it. I obediently nodded, suddenly remembering why I came here, immediately took out the wooden doll to give to elder sister, saying this was a gift from senior brother Adrian. As expected, elder sister was very happy, holding the doll up to admire, reluctant to put it down. She admired while saying, it's been so long since I saw senior brother. I'm about to forget what he looks like. I wonder if he's still as handsome as before. I suddenly remembered that spring, under the blooming peach blossoms, elder sister danced gracefully. Senior brother stood silently under the distant corridor, saying nothing, his gaze attentively watching that scene. Somehow, it had been deeply engraved in my mind throughout all these years. Leaving the palace, the sky had already darkened. Torches before the front hall blazed brightly. The steward bowed, reporting His Highness is waiting for you to have dinner. The feeling of confusion suddenly rose in me again. I said softly, just tell him I'm tired, going to my room to rest first. Before I could walk a few steps, I had already run into Ethan. He stood on high looking down at me, then said, let's eat together. I laughed dryly. I'm not hungry, I just ate. Ethan furrowed his brow, his voice firm. I feel you're avoiding me. I hurriedly waved my hands. No, don't talk nonsense. Then eat a bit with me. He spoke while pulling my hand toward inside the house. I struggled with all my might, shouting, don't pull me. I just want to be quiet. Let me be alone. He gripped my hand tightly, step by step advancing closer. If behind me wasn't a pond, I would have surely thought he wanted to corner me against a wall. That thought made my face involuntarily flush red. Through the gap between his hands, I glimpsed the old steward running away, covering his face, perhaps not wanting to witness this scene. You need quiet to think about what? Could it be you want to leave the prince's manor to find Adrian? Before I could say anything, he had already guessed my intentions. My heart jumped. How did he know I wanted to go to Yungxiao Mountain Manor? How do you view that idea? Ethan's expression suddenly darkened. Actually, the sky was already dark, so I wasn't sure if he was truly frowning, but I clearly heard his breathing becoming heavier and heavier. Probably he was angry. In the end, he let go of my hand without saying anything more. The two of us silently parted ways in the not-so-pleasant atmosphere. I slammed the room door shut, locked it, then threw myself onto the bed, hoping that after sleeping, all troubles would vanish. I originally didn't like vague, unclear thoughts. For me, everything had to be clear, cut to be good. But that night, no matter how long I lay there, I couldn't fall asleep at all. I had climbed onto the roof to gaze at stars, gone to the kitchen to find food 3 times, and even wandered before Ethan's room door 2 more times, kept thinking and thinking. Until dawn, finally couldn't stand it anymore, so I went to knock on Ethan's room door. There was no answer. I called loudly, Ethan, don't act like you're blessed but don't know how to enjoy it. If you don't open the door, I'll kick it down. My shouts didn't make him open the door, only made the old steward come running. His Highness woke up early this morning, his complexion not good. Before noon, he had already left the manor, the steward said. I sighed, had to wait then. But the more I waited, the more annoyed I became. Wait for what? I muttered in my heart, but then sighed again. Fine, I'll wait. I didn't know where he had gone, and even the steward didn't know his whereabouts. I silently calculated, thinking of several places he often frequented to search for him. Even Xiang house I didn't skip. But searching until nearly noon, still couldn't see his shadow anywhere. Anger rose in my heart. I decided to return to the manor, telling myself, if he doesn't come back, then never come back again. On the way, passing by Lenyu Tower, my anger hadn't subsided. I thought of buying a portion of stewed pork knuckle to reduce the frustration while sitting waiting. I glanced around and suddenly I saw him. I turned back, quietly telling the waiter, the door of this purple bamboo elegant room is open. The gap was so large I could even clearly see he was inside. Before the waiter could understand, I had already pushed the door open. Inside the room were 4 or 5 men, beside each was a courtesan attending. I stood right at the door, my voice full of seriousness. Ethan, come out here, I have something to say. Ethan clearly didn't expect me to appear here. His face showed surprise, but he also obediently stood up. Suddenly a man in black robes on the left spoke up, interrupting. Who is this young lady to dare be so rude? Your heart also needs order. We're busy here. The girl beside him also chimed in agreement. Hearing that, Ethan sat back down, indifferently saying, I'm busy. Whatever it is, we'll talk when we get home. I narrowed my eyes, annoyed, picked up the chopsticks from the table and broke them in half right before everyone. Are you all certain? The man in black involuntarily coughed dryly, turning back to tell Ethan, Your Highness, please handle your business first. Ethan had no choice but to stand up and follow me out to the second-floor corridor. He looked rather wary, dark circles under his eyes. Surely last night he didn't sleep well either. His voice weak. I took a deep breath, slowly speaking up. Ethan, you truly are very handsome, though not as good as senior brother. He immediately straightened his back, eyes shining brightly. That's because your eyes are poor. I didn't answer back, just continued, you're kind, upright, and brave. Ethan was briefly surprised, asking back, why suddenly say these things? I gently smiled, adding, you're an interesting person, treat me very well. He began to feel strange, asking further, what's wrong with you? Does this have anything to do with me? I raised my hand to touch my chest, feeling the strong heartbeat inside. Perhaps it's because I like you now. Ethan jolted, raising his head, eyes staring intently at me. I told myself silently, don't panic, it's a small matter. Then I continued, I'm certain. I like you. Are you willing to consider also liking me? Ethan stood dazed, his face expressionless. But after just a moment, the corners of his mouth began to curve up. Then he smiled, covering his mouth, spinning around several times as if unable to contain his joy. Finally, he burst out laughing, making me stand there somewhat embarrassed. The people around passing by made me more flustered. I said softly, don't laugh anymore. But the smile still didn't stop, and the bit of embarrassment finally in me seemed to completely disappear. Honestly, I wanted to jump up and tear his mouth. I asked, what's so funny about it? After a long while, Ethan finally stopped, shaking his head, eyes shining brightly. Not funny, but I'm truly very happy. I looked up to see the pork knuckle had already been served, immediately said, let's go home then. But Ethan still refused to leave, insisting on following along. Wait a moment, I have pork knuckle to eat together. Don't be so petty. I glared at him. Don't you have business? He just smiled and answered, oh, that matter. Ah, it's not needed anymore. After that, Ethan and I discussed traveling outside. Honestly, I was very worried. I remembered father's words once said, if you can bring Ethan away from the capital, I'll write my name backwards. Fortunately, Ethan thought it was a good idea and agreed to leave the capital with me. I had a premonition that from now on, father would have to change his name to Chu Baobao. But I also knew clearly that taking Ethan out of the capital wasn't an easy matter. I said I had already knelt before the Grand Consort for several days now. Each time, the Grand Consort first advised and counseled. When advice didn't work, she would start crying. When tired of crying, she would make me kneel. But being soft-hearted by nature, she couldn't bear to let me kneel long. I pretended to be in pain, rubbing my knees, occasionally groaning a few times, even trying to squeeze out a few tears. She would then forgive me. However, thinking it over, she felt unwilling, so the next day would call me into the palace again. Just like that, circling and dragging on for who knows how long. I was confident that this time I could surely win. But then one day, the Grand Consort no longer cried. She looked at me directly, her gaze sharp, sending chills down my spine. I awkwardly smiled slightly. Or should I go outside to kneel? The Grand Consort suddenly slapped the table hard, saying loudly, if you want to go, that's fine. But first you must leave me a grandchild. My face turned red with embarrassment. Somehow this matter reached Ethan's ears. He even dared to teach me that I must obey my elders. I immediately scolded him as a scoundrel. He just smiled, seemingly finding it something to be proud of. I scolded more. You truly know no shame. Ethan lowered himself, pressing close to me on the bed, his voice low. Does she know the way to give birth to a grandchild for mother consort? That statement truly deserved a beating. I immediately raised my leg to kick, but this time he nimbly dodged, making me unable to even feel surprised before being pulled by him onto the bed. I'll teach you, he smiled. I thought to myself, this was definitely the grand consort's scheme. If I had a child, how could I still leave? One day while strolling the garden with elder sister, admiring the sunlight from afar, I saw a woman wearing pure white robes, refined bearing, gracefully walking forward. This woman had an elegant, unconventional aura. I squinted, looking carefully, wondering if this was a new concubine in the palace. Elder sister, with a calm expression, immediately said, "That's Vivia, the only person in the palace permitted to wear white." Hearing that, I became even more curious, unable to restrain myself from staring as Vivian approached the Phoenix Pavilion. But suddenly she changed direction, quickly walking away. I couldn't help but be surprised, an indescribable feeling rising in my heart. My feet stood as if rooted, unconsciously calling out Vivian. But she didn't stop, continued walking without ever looking back. Recently I had visited Vivian less than before, but sending money to care for her, I had never forgotten. Yet she hid from me so thoroughly, not revealing a trace. I asked elder sister why Vivian had become an imperial consort. Elder sister answered, when His Majesty left the palace by chance, he met her and brought her back to the palace. Hearing this, I couldn't restrain myself, pulling elder sister to immediately go to Xiang Pavilion to ask clearly. Elder sister held me back, saying she was once your best friend. Our two families were once close. She also once called me elder sister. I truly care for her, but given the current situation, whether unintentional or deliberate, I also don't want to see her again. My heart suddenly choked up saying, elder sister, it seems elder sister is no longer as happy as before. Elder sister still gently patted my head like a sigh, smiled slightly. As long as you remain happy as before, that's enough. Though elder sister didn't want to meet again, I still needed to clarify everything. When I arrived at Xiang Pavilion, I stood waiting a very long time under the large camphor tree because the door wouldn't open. Until the moon had risen high, I still couldn't see her. Only after the moon hung high above the willow branches did someone finally emerge from Xiang Pavilion. Taking that opportunity, I slipped through the gap in the door and entered. Inside, lanterns blazed brightly. Vivian sat before the window, hand propping her chin, eyes gazing into the distance. Just seeing me, her first reaction was to hurriedly bend down to firmly close the window. I immediately scolded, "You've read until you became foolish. Isn't there a saying about covering one's ears while stealing a bell?" Just hearing a click, the window opened again. The two of us, one inside, one outside, stood looking at each other silently. After a while, Vivian curved her lips in a smile, but that smile looked even worse than crying. She said softly, "I didn't dare meet you, afraid you would never forgive me." She recounted that not long ago, she was invited to a noble's manor. Because of that person's high position, she couldn't refuse. At the banquet, she happened to meet His Majesty. He praised her literary talent. Upon learning she was the daughter of the Lin family, he felt pity and granted her the title of consort Joyi, bringing her back to the palace. Vivian immediately explained, "You can rest assured, I won't compete with elder sister for His Majesty. I only want to borrow father's reputation to save the clan. But elder sister no longer cares about me. Melody, can you help me talk to elder sister?" I didn't approve, immediately questioning, "There are many ways for you to receive pardon, to receive rewards. You could even have His Majesty clear the Lin family's name. If unwilling, who could force you to marry?" "Why did you have to marry?" Vivian suddenly became fierce, her voice soaring. "You've never experienced the pain of an entire clan being destroyed. Never lost parents in just one night, never understood the fear of living in a pleasure house. You don't know how unbearable those disgusting stares constantly fixed on me were. You don't understand how terrifying the daily pretense and deception was. You even less understand how I had to convince myself to keep living." She interrupted me, her voice bitter. "Melody, I don't want to relive those victorious days. Even if I gained freedom, do you think the world would let me go? Would society accept someone once condemned? Who else would be willing to live with someone once seen as a defiled and corrupt person like me?" I felt immensely remorseful. All these years, Vivian had kept hidden all her pain, not letting anyone casually touch her heart's wound. It turned out that wound had been festering for a long time. I stepped forward, gently embracing Vivian, softly whispering an apology. Vivian bowed her head, her sobs choked, unable to form words. She wept uncontrollably. Before I was also like you. I answered back, no, not alike. You're much better. Sighing softly, when I was still busy climbing trees to catch birds, rumors about her had already spread everywhere. The neighboring house has a daughter named Vivian, intelligent, heaven bless it, both talented and beautiful. Walking on the small palace path, the cold wind blew through, making my heart wander. If not for that twist of fate, facing this predetermined ending, what should I do? What now? Right at that moment, a familiar voice pulled me back to reality. Melody, are you a turtle? Why so slow? Seeing the person holding a pink cloak walking from afar, my heart suddenly surged with a feeling of fortune. I smiled, throwing myself into Ethan's embrace, making him step back several steps from the strong impact. He looked at me full of confusion, asking with concern, what's wrong? Did someone bully you? I both laughed and cried, blaming, why didn't you scold me? He lightly dodged my kick, then turned back to drape a cloak over me. I looked at him and couldn't help but say, I like you so much. Ethan squeezed my hand tighter, the corners of his mouth curving slightly upward. His eyes didn't look to the side, only continuing forward as he said, I know. I hadn't visited the palace in a long time. I only occasionally sent letters through Ethan to deliver to my sister, in which I had written all my thoughts. He smiled and asked, you're preparing to go far away, aren't you? I nodded in response, perhaps so. Sister should gradually get used to it too. The palace affairs are as tangled as a pot of porridge, with the noble consort, Vivian, and my sister. I alone cannot handle it all. What I feared most happened. News from the palace spread that Vivian had a miscarriage. Before I could digest this information, the messenger said another sentence like a hammer blow. It was caused by the Empress. Now she was being held in the Empress Dowager's palace. Related to the Imperial bloodline, though my words were gentle, I couldn't sit still. Vivian surely had many people caring for her, but my sister would have difficulty getting through this. I went to find the noble consort, hoping she would help, pleading for my sister. After all, sister was also a daughter she dearly loved. But the noble consort only shook her head. The first grandson of the Imperial family was lost. The Empress Dowager was furious. Saying anything now would only add fuel to the fire. However, she promised to lead me through the ancestral hall from inside the palace to meet my sister. Inside the ancestral hall, the light was dim, but I could still clearly see the figure kneeling before the altar. This must be where the Empress Dowager usually worshipped Buddha. Looking at my sister's straight back, my nose tingled. Since childhood, sister had always been obedient, and her body was weak. Father had never made her kneel in the family ancestral hall. Now she had to kneel before Buddha. My heart ached. Sister, I couldn't help but call out. Sister turned back, her face pale, her eyes panicked. Why did little sister come here? Be careful not to be discovered. I shook my head and asked for the full story of the matter. Sister answered, Melody, do you believe me? I nodded firmly. Of course I believe you. Sister smiled bitterly with a touch of soreness. I didn't expect little sister to say the exact same words I once said to you. Sister recounted that Vivian had demanded everyone leave so she could speak with sister alone, but the two didn't get along and exchanged heated words. During the argument, Vivian suddenly fell down the steps herself. I was stunned, not knowing what to say next. So that's why Vivian said sister had pushed her, I asked. Sister only smiled sadly. Even with 100 mouths, she couldn't defend herself. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of blood. The Emperor was also present. I didn't dare be rude, only bowed my head and stood to one side, not daring to speak. The Emperor paid no attention to me, only turning to Vivian and saying, Consort surely didn't do it intentionally. Perhaps she was so heartbroken she became confused. Vivian laughed coldly and replied, This concubine knows the Emperor and Empress have deep affection, but I never expected you could twist black and white, distort the truth. The child was innocent, now even justice cannot exist. Emperor Lahan hesitated, speechless for a long while, not knowing how to respond. Finally, the Emperor pointed at me and said, Prince Qingxian's consort has arrived. You should talk with each other. I still have matters to attend to and will return later. Vivian leaned against the pillow looking at me, tears streaming down her face. She held her stomach and sobbed, Melody, my child is gone. I stepped forward, knelt by the bed, looked up and comforted her. There would be other days, we should look forward. After a long while, Vivian stopped trembling and asked me, Melody, do you believe me? I nodded gently and answered softly, "Of course I believe you." She released my hand, her voice seemingly drained of strength. "Did you rush here because you're worried about me, or worried about your sister?" I sighed and replied, "Vivian, I came here worried about both of you. One is my close friend, the other is my flesh and blood. I cannot abandon either of you. Tell me what really happened, please." Vivian bowed her head, her voice hoarse. "Since I entered the palace, your sister has paid me no attention. Later, when I became pregnant, she suffered even more. The affection from our childhood, I didn't want to lose it, so I thought there would be a day to explain things clearly. That's why I told everyone to leave, wanting only to speak privately with her in the pavilion. Perhaps because I was too emotional, she accidentally pushed me." I asked what the two had said. She continued explaining her reasons for entering the palace, but I couldn't stop thinking. If she had said she wouldn't compete for Imperial favor, why did she become pregnant? I blurted out, my eyes full of doubt. She showed a trace of sadness and answered with bitterness, "The Emperor was drunk that night, how could I refuse?" I felt my head buzzing like bees, momentarily not knowing how to react. "Vivian, you know my sister isn't that kind of person." She smiled bitterly, her voice full of despair. "You will change, Melody." I firmly and decisively replied, "She cannot. She would never do such a thing." Vivian laughed coldly. "Then what about me? What am I in your heart?" At that moment I suddenly understood and hurriedly answered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way." This tearing feeling made me feel as if I was being split in two. In the end, I could only run away, not daring to face it. With no other witnesses to this matter, it was like a veil of fog, making people even more exhausted. Sister was ordered by the Empress Dowager to kneel from noon until 9 p.m. for a full month. No one could intervene. Yet clearly the one visibly injured was Vivian. The more I thought, the angrier I became. My eyes couldn't help but turn toward Ethan. "You men, you with your foul habit of 5 wives and 7 concubines, only make everything chaotic." Hearing this, Ethan was displeased and sighed. "This is my Imperial brother's family matter, don't drag me into it." Of course I didn't care. The more I looked at him, the more annoying he seemed. For several days straight, I closed the door and wouldn't let him in. He kept looking pitiful, but didn't dare get angry at me. Finally, he said he wanted to take me somewhere to lift my spirits. After some thought, I nodded in agreement. I traveled with him in a carriage out of the city. I wondered why this direction looked so familiar. Suddenly realizing something, I immediately turned and slapped him. "You're taking me to a pleasure house at a time like this? Do you have any humanity left?" I angrily exclaimed. "No wonder you told me to wear men's clothing, so you had this intention all along." Ethan clutched his arm, his face grimacing. "Don't be hasty, I have a purpose in bringing you here. Remember to keep your hat on tight." Arriving at Xiang Pavilion during the day, this place wasn't as lively as at night, but guests still came to enjoy tea and listen to songs. Ethan reserved a private room, didn't call for any courtesans, only told the manager to bring a few people. In the room were already 4 or 5 people, both men and women. Ethan placed a large gold ingot and some loose silver on the table, smiled and said to everyone, "My brother here has secretly loved Miss Yonguk for over 10 years. Now she suddenly left without a trace. He can't eat or sleep, suffering so much that I brought him here hoping to find some clues to ease his longing." I laughed bitterly. Fine, indeed, for someone like Melody. Hearing this wasn't too strange. Ethan glanced at me, then turned back and continued, "Tell us everything. Before Miss Yonguk left, what did she do? Whom did she meet? Speak in detail, and this gold ingot belongs to whoever speaks best. But remember to keep it secret, my brother is fragile. If this matter spreads outside, who knows what might happen." Everyone naturally nodded in agreement. After that, everyone competed to tell stories, from what books the young miss read, what tea she drank, what clothes she wore, even what musical instrument she played. Everything was clearly described. Until Ethan asked, "Whom did Miss Yonguk usually meet? Do you all think she liked my brother?" The whole group answered in unison, "Liked. Definitely liked." And so they began recounting each person. Even gossip stories and crude words were not lacking. Just as Ethan was about to continue, I interrupted him. Before we could say more, an elderly madam approached. Seeing no reaction, she turned to ask, Little May has always served the young miss, surely you know more than anyone." I immediately directed my gaze toward Little May. That's right, it was the girl who had always been by Vivian's side. Little May was pushed forward and said softly, "I don't know." Ethan said gently, You just need to say whether your young miss treated anyone differently, someone she perhaps loved. Little May hesitated. One day when I was waiting outside the door, I accidentally overheard the young miss requesting to go to a nobleman's manor to play the pipa. She bowed her head, perhaps that was someone the young miss was fond of. The young miss had never been so proactive before. Ethan asked again, "Do you remember what that person looked like?" Little May shook her head. "It's been so long, I don't remember clearly." I sighed, but Ethan smiled lightly. "That's enough for me." Leaving Xiang Pavilion, my heart still didn't feel any better, but Ethan didn't give me a chance to brood. He immediately pulled me to the horse training grounds in the western suburbs. He chose 2 similar horses, brought them before me, put a rein in my hand, then quickly mounted the other one. I still didn't understand what was happening when I saw him turn back with a bright smile. "Come on. Chase after me." The wind blew my hair into disarray. I blurted out, "Are you crazy?" But he paid no attention, slapped the horse's flank and galloped off. This clear challenge, how could I endure it? Without thinking, I immediately spurred my horse to chase after him. The feeling of worries gradually dissipating, only the sound of wind by my ears remained, the fragrance of young grass, and the thundering of hooves. Before my eyes was only his blue figure. After running for quite a while, Ethan gradually slowed down. I also quickly caught up to ride side by side, walking while panting. I proudly asked, "How about that? I caught up with you, didn't I?" He pretended to be serious and nodded. "Indeed, the princess consort is truly formidable. Consider it my loss. So is there a reward?" He tilted his head and smiled at me. "You've caught up with me, naturally I belong to you now." I pretended to be dejected and sighed. "Who wants to chase you? If I'd known it would be like this, I wouldn't have wasted the effort." Ethan didn't answer immediately. Just when I thought he was angry and was about to speak to placate him, I heard him say in a low voice, You don't need to chase. I'll always be by your side anyway." Those words made the melancholy in my heart seem to dissipate by half. Looking at his familiar face, I couldn't help but wonder, no matter how everyone around us changes, will you always be like this, always by my side? The full moon came again, the entire palace bustling with mid-autumn festival celebrations. Though not everything had changed, it still made my heart rise with a touch of regret. My elder sister remained graceful and dignified, sitting above with a gentle smile. The emperor occasionally picked up food for her, and she also received it with a mild smile. But I felt there was no longer the same intimacy between them as before. I truly didn't understand. Emperor Lai Wan seemed to love my elder sister so much, love her to the point of being willing to kneel with her in the Buddha hall. Yet it was as if he didn't love her enough when imperial favor could be so easily bestowed upon another woman. Ethan smiled lightly and said, "Beg me, go on, beg me and I'll tell you." I jokingly begged, "Please tell me." Unexpectedly, he either hadn't thought I could be so easy, or perhaps hadn't yet thought of an explanation. He answered, "I'll tell you in a bit." I then picked up a piece of meat from his bowl. He muttered under his breath, "What do you know? All day you only think about eating." Ethan couldn't help but laugh and explain, "Throughout this entire evening, you've only refused the duck. If I eat one piece, what's the problem?" I smiled to myself and quietly put the meat back, saying, "Then you eat it." That day, to compensate Vivian, was also her birthday. The Empress and Emperor were extremely attentive, from the food to the theatrical performance, everything was specially arranged for her. Before the various consorts in the palace, whoever had the inclination all came to present gifts and congratulations, making her radiant for once. After the banquet ended, I especially went to see my elder sister, gave her a few instructions, then prepared to leave. I hadn't taken more than a few steps when someone blocked my path. Before me was Vivian, her hair adorned with pearls and jade, sparkling under the candlelight, somewhat dazzling to my eyes. She pulled my hand and smiled. "Melody, look at me, wish me a happy birthday." I curled my lip. "Today so many people congratulated you, you don't need me." She shook her head. "It's not the same. However many people there are can't compare to your blessing. You are the one I've been waiting for most." I didn't understand why my heart suddenly ached, tears involuntarily welling up. I looked straight into her eyes and said, "Vivian, you lied to me, didn't you?" She denied it, asking, "What have you heard? Why say this and why don't you trust me?" Seeing me silent, she gradually stopped speaking too. I pulled my hand away, my voice soft but full of determination. "Vivian, that's it then. You were once my best friend, but from now on, perhaps no longer. Whatever your purpose is, I only hope you won't harm my elder sister." In the past, she once coaxed you to sleep, do you remember? Vivian's eyes brimmed with tears, her lips moved but couldn't speak a word. I wiped away my tears and gently added, I also hope you take care of yourself. My elder sister was already pregnant. The Imperial physician examined her, already 3 months along. This should have been great joyous news, but the joy hadn't yet formed a smile on my lips before I had to suppress it. The noble consort's eyes seemed to say, married on the same day, look at others, then look at yourself, don't you feel ashamed? The words weren't heavy, but enough to make me uncomfortable. I turned to ask Ethan, should I feel ashamed? He didn't hesitate and answered, no need. Isn't it natural? Look at their ages, they're much older than us. Hearing this, I also felt my heart lighten and took the opportunity to joke with the noble consort. When little Prince Li Shen is born, the noble consort will also have a baby to hold. By then, if I still have no happy news, perhaps I'll request permission to leave the capital early. The noble consort and Empress Dowager were busy caring for my elder sister and only answered perfunctorily, as you wish. The emperor was extremely delighted that day and bestowed upon my father a promotion to Grand Tutor. I heard that throughout the capital there was excited discussion. Times were changing. Bearing a son wasn't as good as bearing a daughter, and that the Chu family's 8 parts of wealth and honor relied on familial connections, rising to the 3 excellencies in one step. I comforted father, advising him not to be angry or pay attention to gossip from outside. In the future, there would be many opportunities to show the world the true talents of our family. Father sighed in pain, I regret not bearing a few more children like your elder sister. Alright, it turns out I'm still narrow-minded. But anyway, my superior official had already been promoted, while our Prince Xiang was transferred to a more leisurely position in the Ministry of War. I teased, in such peaceful times, is the Emperor sending you there for retirement? Ethan smiled, anyway, we're about to leave the capital. This way makes it easier to let go. That makes sense, I asked, then why not just resign from office altogether? He answered seriously, I still need to find some work to do, otherwise people easily deteriorate. The night breeze had been blowing for a long time. Ethan always had ways to make people uncomfortable. This awakened the fighting spirit within me. Having reached this age, I had to start studying from the beginning again, but this time it wasn't simple things like literacy, but learning the secrets of the martial world. Before leaving, my senior brother had collected quite a few books for me, saying that reading them would be very helpful for future travels. I chose a sunny day to bring out these books to look at. Inside were volumes like One Move to Conquer the Martial World, Wilderness Survival Guide, even books teaching the art of eloquence. I smiled to myself, senior brother really knows how to plan ahead. That's also a type of martial arts, he said. Tonight I'll teach you. I truly felt this person was peculiar, studying martial arts at night. That night finally understood what kind of martial arts he intended to teach. But unexpectedly, it was so unbelievable. Senior brother Ling Diao, when had he changed so much? Truly morals were declining, people's hearts growing more distant. Among the books senior brother left behind, aside from a few volumes that were like reading martial world novels which I found quite interesting, only the medical text was extremely difficult to understand. Throughout that half year, I had practically taken root at Huchun Hall Pharmacy, learning basic knowledge from the old physician, until his grandson met with disaster. The young prince named Li Shen was the emperor's eldest legitimate grandson. It seemed the position of crown prince was almost certain. I heard the emperor was so delighted he fainted. Though this legend seemed hard to believe, Ethan returned and said that after the imperial physician's deliberation, they learned that the emperor had secretly taken elixirs for a long time and his body was now beginning to fail from the side effects. The Empress Dowager flew into a thunderous rage and immediately ordered the arrest of all eunuchs and palace servants who had supplied medicine to the emperor. All were thrown into prison, though no one admitted guilt. Some even said they had followed the Empress's orders to secretly change medicines to protect His Majesty's health. The Empress Dowager immediately ordered a search of all palaces. Anyone harboring medicine would be severely punished. Regrettably, the search yielded no results. After my elder sister completed her month of confinement, her complexion looked very good. Beside her was little Prince Li Shen, chubby and adorable. I gently poked his cheek to play. The little one's eyes hadn't fully opened yet. Calling him to follow me, little Prince Li Shen had barely parted his lips when he burst into loud crying. My elder sister glanced at me disapprovingly, then held the little one in her arms and gently rocked him. I was happy to see sister was no longer as cold as before. I mentioned the emperor's situation. Sister was stunned for a moment, involuntarily shedding 2 lines of tears, yet the corners of her mouth still smiled. I also don't understand why His Majesty wouldn't listen and had to torment himself like this. Her words startled me and I immediately fell silent, regretting my slip of tongue that made elder sister cry. I didn't know when many matters sister stopped confiding in me, and I increasingly couldn't understand her thoughts anymore. Many times, clearly wanting to chat nicely, we'd end up arguing instead. Perhaps this is what they call intimacy is also distance, and closeness is also maintaining boundaries between husband and wife. Now that there was little Princeless Shen, I also didn't want to dwell on these matters anymore. I only hoped sister would be at peace. I hurriedly changed the subject. Soon I'll probably be going far away, not knowing when I'll return. It might be 1 year, half a year, or perhaps 3 springs and autumns. Sister didn't try to keep me, only smiled and said, "That's good too, you've always loved freedom." And so, throughout that month I busily prepared for the journey, while Ethan became increasingly exhausted. Each day he left home at dawn and who knows when he'd return. The 2 of us went several days without speaking a single word to each other. Each time it was the prince carrying the young miss back to bed, making me wonder if tonight he had developed other intentions. I was truly shameless, so many times wanting to speak frankly, but in the end always accidentally falling asleep. The heart-to-heart talk I'd prepared completely vanished in my drowsiness. Sinew comforted me, saying the prince was about to leave the capital, with so much preparatory work. Being busy was normal. Until one day when I had already washed up ready for bed, no longer expecting him to return, suddenly he came back. The words of reproach hadn't yet been uttered when his eyes were already red, rimmed as he said, "This weekend we probably won't be able to leave." I asked in surprise. "Everything has been carefully prepared, why can't we go anymore?" Ethan rested his head on my lap, his voice hoarse. "It's only temporary. In court, there are several matters that need to be resolved. Once handled, we'll depart." I asked, "Will it take long?" He remained silent. I asked again, "Is it because the emperor's health isn't good?" He nodded, almost imperceptibly. I clenched my hands, about to say, "You're just a prince without extensive learning. Why can't the work be done without you? Isn't there still Prince Ning, famous throughout the land?" But seeing his weary, travel-worn appearance, I couldn't bear it. After all, his martial skills were second to none. Usually when he let me tease him, it was actually just him yielding to me. As for his scholarly talents, I didn't know clearly, but I knew he was intelligent, and if he wanted something, nothing was impossible. So I changed my words and said gently, "Ethan, I'm stronger than you think. And I also like hearing the truth. Tell me, did you truly ever want to wander the martial world with me?" He slowly raised his head, his eyes bright as if containing an entire galaxy, and answered, "I wanted to. That was also the life I've always longed for, what I've dreamed of day and night. It's just that when about to achieve it, the dream suddenly shattered. To say I'm not sad would be a lie." Seeing him, my heart suddenly stirred with new thoughts. Ethan still left early and returned late, while I sat on the swing every day thinking about the future. However, most of the time, I still just sat there dazed in tangled thoughts. Princess Consort Ning personally coming to my home was truly something I never expected. The 2 of us weren't close at all, apart from a few chance encounters at palace banquets. She brought gifts, besides several exquisite jewelry pieces. There were even several luminous pearls as large as eggs. I didn't know how to reciprocate, could only bring out my favorite pastries to serve the guest. She gracefully took a sip of tea and said, "I have nothing precious at all in the manor, only ordinary objects. If younger sister likes anything, feel free to come choose." Though our ages weren't far apart, I always sensed from her an air of proud authority, like someone standing above 10,000 people. Perhaps because Prince Ning's manor had long been at the center of the capital. I went along with it, saying, "That's fine. If there's an opportunity, I'll visit." We chatted for quite a while. She asked what I usually liked to do, what I liked to eat. I answered honestly, but it seemed what I said didn't quite suit her taste, making the atmosphere somewhat awkward. After a long while, when I had already thought of a tactful excuse to invite her to leave, she suddenly spoke up. "I hear that recently Prince Xiang has frequently been away from home." I was surprised, hadn't yet reacted when she continued. "Prince Ning is the same. I don't know what keeps these two brothers so busy that their faces are never seen. We women truly suffer. I looked at her bewildered, then probed tentatively. Does the princess consort know this song? People work at dawn, also work at dusk. Everyone toils above others. She had never heard the voice of the common people before, so I enthusiastically explained. They all go out to earn money. Being busy is natural. We stay home enjoying leisure. The hardship is theirs. I smiled and continued, Princess consort, if you put it that way, then it's not the princess consort's fault. Living like immortals yet still complaining, isn't that the wrong mindset? No need to change at all. She showed displeasure and reproached me. Younger sister is truly knave. I didn't want to say more, but seeing her like this, I couldn't sit still. Seeing she was genuinely worried, I could only blink repeatedly to show cooperation. What's the matter? She answered. Recently the Forbidden City has been strict. Younger sister probably hasn't entered the palace in a long time. Does younger sister know? In the palace now, rumors are spreading that Prince Xiang, taking advantage of His Majesty's illness, frequently visits the Empress's quarters. It's truly unacceptable. Though that person is your biological elder sister, and your husband, originally I shouldn't say much, but I truly can't bear to see younger sister be deceived. I carefully considered her words, my heart rising with many emotions, but outwardly I remained calm. I smiled and replied, many thanks for elder sister's concern. It's just that I worry about elder sister and little Prince Xiang, so I asked the prince to conveniently visit them when entering the palace. I didn't expect there would be such rumors. The fault lies in my insufficient consideration. Princess consort Ning seemed somewhat surprised, was stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing and clapped, saying, look at me. I've said too much. Who wouldn't know? I know clearly. Your elder sister was originally supposed to marry Prince Xiang. I've been too talkative. Seeing you two as husband and wife with such deep affection, I'm also relieved. Just consider you haven't heard what I said. I smiled and answered. All right, but this rumor involves the Empress Dowager. I hope elder sister will keep it confidential, lest it cause embarrassment to all under heaven. That wouldn't be good. She laughed awkwardly twice and said, I know. I only told younger sister. After Princess consort Ning left, I sat on the swing for a very long time, my head full of thoughts, unable to stop. Does Ethan truly like me? Thinking back, it seems he's never said so. Even that time I went to Lenyu Tower to find him, I didn't receive a response saying he also liked me. What did he say then? He said he was very happy. The more I thought, the more uncomfortable I felt. But after so many days and months together, could I really not sense anything? Whether I was in a person's heart or not, I think I understood clearly. But the statement that the person Ethan originally intended to marry was Serena truly made me angry. I decided to ease my own heart, called Sinew to prepare a few favorite books along with foods I like to bring into the room. I don't believe I can't catch this dog. Tonight I even went to the storage to search for the Xiaoyan sword. Father once said this sword was gifted by someone from the manor when I was a month old. The blade shone bright as frost, gleaming with cold light. I placed it across the table, telling myself that Ethan truly made me unhappy. I would smash this den of his. Ethan returned late one night. He looked very tired. Upon entering the room, he realized the lights in the main chamber were still on, and I sat there, clothes neat and tidy, not yet having gone to rest. Surprised, he sat down beside me and asked, why haven't you slept yet? Seeing his dark, circled eyes, I felt distressed and told the maid to bring a bowl of wonton soup for him to eat while still hot. He ate heartily. Pretending casualness, I asked, I hear you've been frequently entering the palace to visit elder sister lately. He only gave a soft, what do you go there for? I continued. He answered, there are several matters that need discussing with her. I asked again, what matters require so much discussion? He replied in a calm tone, the matters are quite complex, involving many aspects. Then he continued with an admiring tone, but your elder sister truly makes one respect her, in both character and wisdom. She's not inferior to any man. Hearing this, I couldn't help but blurt out, so do you like that type of person? Ethan burst out laughing, set down his spoon, and coughed violently for a moment before replying. What are you saying? I tried to maintain composure and asked directly. Do you like my elder sister? He was silent for a moment, the smile disappeared, then seriously answered. Why would you ask such a thing? I recounted the story of Princess Consort Ning's visit today, and the words she had said. Hearing this, Ethan burst out laughing. Sisterly truly dares to do anything. He reached out to pinch my cheek lightly, then teased. Are you jealous of your own elder sister? That really has no future. I couldn't help but retort. Have you forgotten what you said in the palace hall that day? He looked slightly flustered, then replied, back then I didn't know you yet. If I'd known earlier, I definitely would have knelt and proposed to this Miss Chu long ago. Hearing this, I pouted, still not fully convinced. How do I know if you're telling the truth or lying? He answered with sincere voice, it's fine, I have plenty of time for you to verify my heart yourself. My heart suddenly caught at that moment, tears welling up directly, yet I still felt somewhat aggrieved and couldn't help dwelling on those words. Tears involuntarily fell. I silently reproached, but you've never said you like me. Ethan smiled lightly. I don't like you, because I'm foolish. While I was still struggling between pretending to be strong and letting go or taking up the sword to end everything, he suddenly stepped forward, gently embraced me and said, I love you. Just then, the emperor passed away. The sky drizzled lightly, rain like silk threads falling endlessly. Though mentally prepared beforehand, when news from the Imperial palace arrived, people's hearts still seemed to stop for that moment. Can't say it was too heartbreaking. Just that whenever I thought of it, my heart rose with the lament that someone departed when life was still so young. Elder sister must be very sorrowful, but at this time surely couldn't dwell on that. The emperor left behind only one son, Prince Xiang. The throne would naturally belong to the boy, but a child who hadn't yet grown teeth, how could he make civil and military officials submit willingly? Before passing away, Emperor Li Huan had left an edict entrusting regency power to Prince Xiang to assist the young emperor, until the boy reached 15 to rule on his own. This edict stirred waves in court, especially when it was issued from the empress's hand. Old rumors were mentioned again, making many even more suspicious. People said that even if Ethan truly sacrificed for the nation, the more suitable person to succeed should still be Prince Ning. I turned to ask Ethan, are you angry? He only calmly answered, I'm used to it. Those words made my heart tighten with sympathy for him. But there was one thing I never understood. Why didn't Emperor Li Huan issue the edict earlier, but let it become a posthumous decree, making everything more difficult for Ethan? I had thought this power struggle was only a game between Ethan and LeJoy. I didn't expect I'd also be drawn in. The day I entered the palace to visit elder sister, I accidentally ran into Fiona. We hadn't met in a long time. Today she wore white garments, completely different from her usual heavily made-up appearance, making her look more elegant and pleasant. However, her arrogant expression blocking my path hadn't changed at all. It seemed she wanted to say something. She said proudly, the Zhao family has only me as a daughter. I nodded slightly. So what? Is there something you want to say? She continued. My father is the Grand General guarding the northern capital, holding command of 100,000 elite troops. Naturally, bringing up her father to boast like this, what was her intention? I reluctantly replied, the Chu family has 2 young misses. My father is the Grand Tutor, my elder sister is the Empress Dowager, and my grandson, unexpectedly, will be the current emperor. She suddenly interrupted me. If I bring 100,000 soldiers as betrothal gifts, would Ethan marry me? Honestly speaking, I was so stunned I fell silent for a long while before I could find my voice again, reminding her of one thing. She already had a husband. She replied indifferently, so what? When he gains power, I just need to find an excuse to fake my death and leave the palace. I immediately challenged. Fine, let me go see the Empress Dowager to report your wicked scheme. See if you still dare cause chaos. Fiona smiled with full confidence. Without evidence, what can you report? Moreover, now who doesn't want to win over my father? Which harem dare touch me? Those words were truly hard to refute. I could only reply, it seems you've also read quite a few books teaching conspiracy plots. But I'm puzzled, why did you suddenly come up with such an idea? She raised her eyebrows and said, I don't want to live playing second fiddle. Prince Ning has promised to help me leave the palace and can marry me. Thinking back and forth, this seemed like a good idea. I asked in confusion, did Ethan also tell you that? But before letting her answer, I told myself inwardly, no way, no way. He only likes beautiful people, would never submit himself for someone like her. Fiona laughed coldly. Don't joke with me. Just wait and see how things unfold. Watching her figure leave, I shouted loudly, don't boast in front of me. If you're so capable, have Ethan come here and face me. Usually when arguing with Fiona, I always won, but this time I was truly furious to death. At dinner time, I asked Ethan, tonight, besides meeting elder sister, are you entangled with anyone else? He absently picked up a piece of green vegetable and put it in his mouth, answering, "No." I ground my teeth and said, "Confess and you'll be treated leniently, resist and you'll suffer the consequences." His face changed color. "You can't mean you're talking about Miamu." I roared. "Who else is there now?" I felt anger had risen to my throat. "Truly your troubles never end. My colleague from the Ministry of War." Ethan hurriedly explained, "I know in your books there are all kinds of stories, but the matter between me and that person is absolutely not what you think. Just occasionally working together. Nothing more than a small misunderstanding." Speaking to this point, his eyes full of suggestive meaning looked at me and smiled. "Don't you know what type of princess consort I like?" I irritably replied. "Who has time to joke with you? I'm talking about Fiona." He withdrew his smile, becoming serious. "You already know too." I remained silent, only nodding slightly. "That's right, she wants to bring an entire army as dowry to marry me." After saying this, he picked up another piece of braised meat for me. "But I have absolutely no desire to marry her. You can rest assured, I have no interest." I asked, "What about Prince Ning's matter then?" He smiled lightly and answered, "That matter is for later, don't worry." I pondered, was the Zhao family's support important? Ethan nodded. "Otherwise, how could my Imperial brother have married her when his feelings for your sister were still so deep?" I smiled bitterly. Truly strange. My sister became Empress Dowager at such a young age. When I realized this was also when the palace transmitted an edict, the Grand Empress Dowager summoned me to the palace. Mother-in-law was also there. Upon seeing me, tears immediately fell. This ailment was probably hard to cure. The Grand Empress Dowager was extremely courteous, offering seats, inviting tea, even serving the flour pastries I liked most. But precisely this made my heart even more anxious. She spoke. "From the first time I met you, I liked you very much, wanted you to become my daughter-in-law. Not only for the capital but because your temperament somewhat resembled mine when I was young. The person I've respected for so long, seemingly like a living bodhisattva speaking these words. Later when you married Ethan, though I felt some regret, I thought it was also good. But once entering the Imperial family, some matters cannot be decided by oneself." Her words made my heart surge with intense fear. Finally, she said, "You surely already know clearly, in this power struggle, Li Jia is perhaps more suitable than Ethan to hold the regent position. But his ambition is too great, he'll never be satisfied with the regent position. If military power of the capital falls into his hands, even if he wants to rebel, he completely has the capability. I cannot risk this. Do you understand?" "Understand, of course I understand," she sighed. "Ethan stubbornly refuses to marry Fiona. You and your sister are both good children. Can you perhaps persuade him? Just treat her as decorative furniture in the manor, no need to pay attention to her. After entering the manor, once the great matter is accomplished, she's merely a second concubine. How can she stir up storms?" I bowed my head, not knowing how to respond. Mother-in-law stepped forward to embrace me, tears falling. "My child has such a bitter fate. Don't worry, in mother's heart, you'll always be the only daughter-in-law." I laughed and joked, "What if Fiona gives mother a grandson first?" Mother was stunned, then lightly patted my back. "Can't you compete even a little?" I only smiled but didn't reply. After that, I respectfully bowed before the Grand Empress Dowager and mother-in-law. "Please give me more time to think. Elder sister has been extremely busy lately." The waiting time passed truly long, and precisely during this period, I increasingly felt the ambiguity and helplessness. They all seemed to have their own missions and responsibilities, while I felt myself lost in the middle of everything. Lakesu urged me, "It's late, go home." But I shook my head, I need a support. When I met elder sister again, she looked more wary than before, partly because of the formal attire and makeup. She looked at me and apologized for involving Prince Xiang's manor in this storm. Upon seeing her, my tears couldn't be held back. "What should I do, elder sister? Fiona is truly hateful. From childhood till now, I've never hated anyone more than her." Elder sister both cried and laughed, wiping tears for me, saying, "This matter is truly childish, but I'm still crying. I don't want Ethan to marry her, also don't want to make things difficult for everyone." Elder sister sighed, "I didn't expect after going through so many twists and turns, in the end you'd also have to face a choice like I once did." That day when elder sister decided like that, did you ever regret it? Sister pondered for a long while then answered, "I've never regretted it, but in my heart there are still matters I cannot fully settle." Sister said, "Melody, in the Imperial family, everyone has difficulty deciding their own destiny. Back then, Fiona entering the harem was only a matter of time, no one could resist. But I also didn't want to resist. I did everything from genuine feelings. Now times have changed, Ethan is not Li Huan. Everything is for younger sister to grasp yourself. However, don't be too harsh on yourself. Whatever younger sister decides, elder sister will stand on your side. I didn't ask further if it meant losing the entire empire, would sister still accept it? I sat on the roof all night. Coincidentally, Ethan also didn't return. That entire night of cold frost, I was truly exhausted. Making decisions was indeed difficult, but understanding one's own heart was much easier. I chose a day with clear skies and calm clouds, with a lightened heart to discuss with Ethan. Perhaps I should leave. He objected, blurting out he wouldn't marry Fiona nor take anyone else, urging me not to be impulsive. I answered, I'm not making this decision out of anger. It's not because I'm being stubborn. On the contrary, I trust you as before. Leaving the capital, I've actually been thinking about it for a long time. I've always wanted to record what I see and hear, hopefully write it into an illustrated book to circulate for ages. I also plan to paint a large picture of mountains and rivers, and more than anything, want to experience the martial world in Master's heart, fulfill my heroine aspirations. You see, so many things I haven't done yet. If I don't depart soon, I'm afraid it'll be too late. I tried to appear calm and said gently, you weren't originally in those plans anyway. Now I'm just returning everything to the starting point. He asked, won't you wait for me? I shook my head and answered, you're very busy. As your wife, I can't help with anything. Even the matter of persuading you to take another concubine, I can't do it. He looked at me, a tear falling, asking, so you don't need me anymore? I smiled sadly. How could I not need you? I only wish to be by your side forever, together admiring flowers, drinking wine, listening to birds sing among mountains and forests, never parting for a moment. But you have your responsibilities, and I have my convictions. In the end, he also didn't keep me anymore. I had soon a set of clothing, choosing deep blue fabric, at the cuffs embroidering some faint cloud patterns. Though the style was simple, the stitching not particularly meticulous, I hoped he would like it. My travel gear had been prepared long ago. Before leaving, I only bid farewell to father. He patted my shoulder and joked, "Father is truly blessed. Your name doesn't even need to be read backwards." Apart from a touch of sadness, father said nothing, only silently watched me leave. Leaving the capital was easier than I thought, but also harder than I imagined. Time passed quickly. In a blink, I'd left home 3 times. The first time I went to Miao territory to gather medicine, the scenery there was naturally sentimental, the people warm and hospitable, men unrestrained, women passionate. On the streets, sometimes I received bouquets from strangers. Regrettably, I had to coldly tell them I was already settled. Please don't harbor false hopes. The second time I followed senior brother to Jiangnan for a grand gathering. Originally I only planned to watch the excitement, who knew I'd unexpectedly become the center of attention. I laughingly asked senior brother Adrian, who always frowned in displeasure, could it be because now I'm more admired by people than him, so he's become jealous? Senior brother answered jokingly, that fellow, though handsome with strong martial skills, doesn't have the clever social skills like younger sister. Over time, his temperament became like that, yet even so, the wealthy young miss of the Linuan sect insists on marrying him. The third time I went even farther, following a group to Mount Ha to present birthday congratulations to the manor lord. I'd never been to this place before, so very much wanted to see this most treacherous place under heaven. On the return journey, stopping at a tea house, I heard people discussing. Saw the towering castle with my own eyes, in a blink turned to desolate ruins. Who could have imagined Prince Ning would fall to such circumstances? This was the first time in so long I'd heard news from the capital. Couldn't help but hold my breath to listen. Someone sighed. The regent prince is truly decisive. Didn't expect he could gradually grasp military power of the capital. Wonder if later it will threaten the emperor's throne. I breathed a sigh of relief. Finally he succeeded. But my heart felt distressed. No matter what, Ethan had already married Miss Zhao. When I returned to the manor, senior brother guarding the mountain gate handed me a letter. As expected, the letter came from the capital, but I didn't expect the writer would be her. Opening the letter, the handwriting appeared as if she herself were facing me. Melody, when you receive this letter, I'll probably no longer be in this world. Don't be sad, I'm not worth it. But if you could cry a little for me, I would definitely be very happy. I've always owed you an apology for hiding things and deceiving you, hurting the person you cherish most. But I don't regret it. I entered the palace to receive favor, but it was all just a chess move. I was never sincere with the emperor, on the contrary, I killed him to avenge my parents. I know the Lin family's destruction wasn't his fault, but the Li family owed the Lin family, someone had to pay. Prince Ning participated in this matter. I've handed over his letters and evidence to Prince Xiang. With his talents, it will surely be useful. From childhood to adulthood, you always protected me. Now I can finally help you once. Before my mother passed away, she told me I must live well no matter what. I tried hard to live according to mother's instructions for over 10 years, but it was too difficult. I thought and thought until my head ached like hammers pounding, yet still couldn't find a reason to continue living in this world. If only you were by my side, surely you would chatter on telling me where there's delicious roasted leg, where there's beautiful dancing, temple fairs are so lively, people there so interesting, how the mountains overlap, how the rivers still flow urgently. The human world is still beautiful, but I'm not worthy. No longer a chance to hear you say happy birthday again. 1,000 words, respectfully sent to you. Nanjing and the capital were far apart. Now the letter had arrived, surely everything had been arranged. My heart ached indescribably. I quietly erected a tomb for her in the wind on the back hill, cooked a bowl of longevity noodles to bid farewell. Suddenly remembering childhood days, each time I caused trouble, I'd run to her house to sleep under one blanket. Waiting 10 days, half a month until father's anger passed before returning home. The skill of making noodles was also learned from Aunt Lin. But from now on, I'll never make noodles again. It seemed everything in the capital had settled. So I bid farewell to the manor lord, saying I wanted to travel alone to the northwest. They weren't reassured, insisting on sending people along, but I could only secretly flee, thinking I wasn't detected, but that boy Adrian secretly followed. At first stealthily, later even staying at the same inn. I told him to go back, but he coldly replied he had business in the northwest, just happened to be passing through. I said fine. But this place is so interesting, I've decided to stay 10 days, half a month, you take care of your own business. He said nothing more, only took his sword and left. I breathed a sigh of relief. But when lodging at the next inn, I again saw a white-robed swordsman sitting drinking tea at the entrance, looked very familiar. I angrily stepped forward. Before I could speak, he spoke first. I arrived first. His words left me nothing to say. I could only sigh. I still remember someone, whether time is short or long, I cannot forget. He answered, you don't need to say these things to me, don't need to trouble yourself. I'm only following master's orders to protect your safety. Nothing more. I smiled bitterly. Then consider it me being sentimental once. He didn't appear again, but I cried. Arriving at another inn, I unfortunately encountered a den of criminals. When I discovered the food was drugged, my body was already paralyzed. I tried to shout loudly but could only make sounds weak as mosquito buzzing. Adrian, save me, but no one responded. Truly the martial world teaches people what suffering is. My whole body ached with no strength. In the boat hold were about a dozen girls, probably all kidnapped here, all fearfully huddled in corners. Seeing me wake up, a scarred man showed interest and cheered. Ah, the richest one's awake. I quickly nodded. Right, I have lots of money, lacking nothing. Let me go and I'll give you more than what I'm carrying. He sneered coldly, his face full of ferocity. Don't play tricks. Behave and listen, then there'll be a place for you. I forced down my fear, my mouth dry and hoarse. So where do you plan to take us? Perhaps out of boredom or thinking there was no need to hide it from me, he answered. 3 places, become a maid or minor concubine in a large family, become a wife in the countryside, or become a courtesan. Which do you want to choose? While speaking, he reached out to touch my face. I gritted my teeth enduring it, forcing an awkward smile. Then being a maid is better. He grinned wickedly. Aye, sensible. But with this beauty, being top courtesan would also be quite worthy, can't waste it. I pretended to be afraid, curling up, not daring to say more. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. Finally the boat docked. I shed tears of regret, silently vowing I must learn to paint watercolor landscapes. The books I read couldn't be useless. The medicine I studied also couldn't be wasted. Fortunately I carried several antidote pills from the Yuan family. Upon waking I could save myself. But unfortunately there were too many guards and I didn't know swimming, so I thought, wait until going ashore when they separate, I'll find a chance to escape. Escaping went quite smoothly, their martial skills were no match for me. More importantly, Adrian finally appeared. His swordplay was truly extraordinary. 10 steps, 1 kill, 1,000 miles without trace. If not for my request to leave witnesses, his body would probably soon have to mount the execution platform. After the human traffickers were tied up, the surrounding space became quieter. He then apologized. That day I drank too much, nearly caused great disaster. It won't happen again. I smiled lightly and answered, it's fine. See, I told you I can protect myself. Now are you reassured? I told Adrian to watch over them while I went to report to the authorities. He shook his head. All right, but I'll go with you. No matter how I advised, he refused to let go. Finally we led the scarred man to the magistrate's office. Initially we planned to bring a girl as witness, but most of them had fled in fear. Those remaining had weak legs and couldn't walk. Such carelessness. Arriving at the office, the scarred man instead falsely accused us, saying we had robbed him while he was traveling. I couldn't help but laugh sarcastically, asking him, "What do you have worth robbing?" He answered without changing expression, "Wealth, goods, beauty, I have everything." Didn't expect this fellow to be so humorous. The magistrate then asked if there were other witnesses. I answered there was a long line of others. The girls I rescued were also outside the city. We led the magistrate outside the city, but when we arrived, both the traffickers and the girls had all vanished. Adrian examined carefully and said perhaps they'd already been rescued by someone. This made me extremely angry. The county magistrate comforted us. The bad guys had been detained. Rest assured we'll investigate thoroughly. However, everything seemed too perfunctory. On the way back, I kept muttering with Adrian that we must make them face justice. After such a frightening ordeal, I felt I needed to calm my mind. So I invited him to the largest tea house in the area for a meal. Of course he had to pay since I had no money left. My luggage was completely lost. We sat by the window eating while discussing where the bandits could flee to and whether those other girls had been rescued yet. While eating, I suddenly put down my chopsticks, laughing and saying, "No need to search for clues anymore. The scarred man has appeared on the street." Adrian drew his sword and immediately set out. I followed to observe what he planned to do. Regrettably, the good food on the table hadn't yet been touched. The two of us quietly tailed the scarred man through many winding streets. Then he entered a large house on the west side of town. Standing on the rooftop, I glanced down to see clearly they all gathered here. I sighed. This time surely won't let them escape. I told Adrian to stay on guard while I went to the magistrate's office for help. This time he didn't object, only reminded me to be careful, go quickly, return early. Unexpectedly, when I arrived to report about the traffickers, Magistrate Chi personally came out to receive me. He inquired thoroughly about the matter, but I was anxious. If not quick, they would flee. Magistrate Chi only smiled, telling me to sit down and drink tea to quench my thirst. Sensing something abnormal, I set down the teacup and said I nearly forgot. My friend at West City was waiting for me. I needed to return immediately. Just leaving the room, I was blocked by two large men. I turned back and coldly asked, "Sir, what is the meaning of this?" Magistrate Chi still kept his benevolent smile. "Miss has traveled far, surely exhausted. Why not rest first?" I suddenly understood. The situation here was truly deeper than I'd thought. Turns out they were all in the same faction. In my heart I cursed 1,000 times. Ethan, how do you govern, allowing such shameless corrupt officials to run rampant? Just then, it seemed an important person arrived. Hearing the news, Magistrate Chai hurriedly left. I was taken to the prison. The prison was dark and damp. I was locked in a small cell, only a square window frame, revealing a bit of weak light. Though imprisoned, I wasn't worried because I knew for certain Adrian would come rescue me. But truly unexpected, the one who came wasn't him but Ethan. I had imagined countless times the moment of meeting him again. In my imagination, I'd be riding a tall horse, belt fastened at the waist, majestic and imposing, walking past him, not like now, huddled in a dark corner, disheveled and embarrassed. I stood up straight, smiling faintly. Long time no see. I straightened myself and grinned. Long time no see. Could it be Prince Qingxin? Ethan removed his cloak and forcefully threw it over my shoulders. I wanted to dodge, but his strength was too great. I couldn't react in time. Magistrate Chi standing beside ingratiatingly. "Perhaps there's a misunderstanding here. Let's go outside to talk." Just then from outside came the sound of weapons clashing. An officer rushed in breathlessly. "Sir, there's a white-robed youth outside causing trouble. If we don't hand over the person, he'll destroy the magistrate's office." Hearing this, I hurriedly ran to the outer courtyard, patting Adrian's shoulder to comfort him. "It's fine. Everything's settled now." Seeing me safe, his expression relaxed somewhat, rarely showing a light smile. However, when his eyes swept over Ethan standing behind me, he immediately pulled me to his side, then returned to a cold expression. I gently freed my hand and introduced them both. "This is Ethan." And Ethan scoffed and smiled coldly. "Before, you called me husband, now perhaps everything's changed." I angrily said, "Stop being evasive. Do you know your subordinates are colluding with human traffickers? What do you do every day allowing such terrible things to happen?" Magistrate Qi fearfully knelt down. "This lowly official wouldn't dare, Your Highness. Please don't listen to this young lady's one-sided words." Ethan stood straight with arms crossed, coldly answering, "I'll have the prefecture investigate this matter thoroughly." He glanced at me and added, "But she's already married, calling her princess consort would be more appropriate." Magistrate Qi immediately showed respect. "Oh my, so it's the princess consort. No wonder, so intelligent and clever, righteous and brave, truly a saving bodhisattva." Adrian and I had struggled for so long, yet just one glance from Ethan solved everything. Truly the reason many pursue power in court. Adrian silently glanced at me without saying anything, leading people to the house in West City. I intended to follow, but Ethan firmly grasped my hand and pulled me back. "Stay with me a while. I've been traveling for many days, truly exhausted." Half pulling, half dragging me toward the guest room. Entering the room, Ethan casually removed his outer robe and turned to ask, "Are you cold?" I angrily scolded, "You scoundrel, truly shameless." He smiled and asked, "What are you thinking?" "I just want to sleep. Isn't it because you haven't seen me in so long that you're thinking about that?" He smirked. "If so, I'll reluctantly try to sleep then." I lifted my foot to kick him. He laughed heartily, then lay down. Not long after, even breathing sounds arose. I tiptoed to the bedside to look closely. He'd become darker than before, thinner, his features sharper, his chin covered with green stubble. So strange. My hand involuntarily reached out to touch it lightly. When I realized it was already too late. Ethan still lay there, one hand pillowing his head, eyes unopened, only smiling faintly. "Well, haven't I become more handsome? Melody, do you regret cruelly abandoning me that year?" I didn't hesitate, grabbing a pillow to throw at him. "Regret what? I've lived very peacefully. Don't need you at all." The prefecture magistrate worked quickly, in no time brought the ringleader before Ethan, also bringing back the bundle of belongings I'd lost. After father inquired, we learned County Magistrate Lu Cheng colluded with bandits, exploiting kidnapping for profit. Magistrate Qi hadn't participated at all, only because he knew the regent prince was coming did he hurry back. The subordinates wanted to suppress this matter to handle later. I ask, "What about those other young ladies? Have they been returned?" The prefecture magistrate respectfully answered, "Please rest assured, Princess Consort, this lowly official will find each person and safely return them home." Then he added, "Young Master Bai left word, he has urgent matters so cannot accompany you west." Only then did I realize Adrian hadn't returned. That's fine too. I bid farewell. Ethan prepared to return and rest. He didn't keep me, only ordered people to escort me back. The guards accompanying said nothing the entire journey. Until preparing to leave, he finally said, "Please forgive me, Princess Consort, His Highness still has many matters to discuss with the officials, so cannot accompany you." I smiled and answered, "I understand." The next morning, before full daylight, I went to the market to buy a small horse. I rode slowly toward the north of the city. The misty veil still lingered, not yet dispersed. In the fog, I faintly saw a familiar figure standing in the courier station. He wore deep blue garments, though the style was simple, he still couldn't hide his nobility. He stood there, his brows and eyes full of joy. "Melody, you've been waiting for me a long time, haven't you?" I hurriedly dismounted. Tears couldn't be held back. "I wasn't waiting for you. You already married Fiona. I'm not worthy, can't stay by your side anymore." He stepped forward to wipe my tears, his voice gentle. "I didn't marry her. After learning you left, Miss Zhou changed her mind and only requested to leave the palace. The Zhao family also handed over military power. With Vivian's evidence, Prince Ning now has nothing to worry about." I asked chokingly, "Why did it turn out this way?" Ethan smiled lightly. "Who knows? Perhaps she thought things through." "What about the court then?" he said. "I've arranged everything. Just need to return to the capital once every half year. Moreover, with your father watching over things, nothing major will happen. Little Prince Li Shen has grasped power, we don't need to worry much anymore." I looked at him bewildered. "So does that mean you came here only to find me?" He smiled and nodded. "Now I'm just an idle prince. Melody, do you despise me?" I hugged him tightly, tears soaking his robe. Don't despise, we're truly heaven-made, cannot be separated. From now on, green mountains misty, waters flowing long, the two of us carefree and at ease in the human world. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe,